Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Elden Ring spoiler mode.
Woo!
It's time. I'm Brad Ellis. I'm joined by Isla Hink and Michael Damiani. And we're gonna dive into these Elden Ring spoiler mode. This Elden Ring spoilers, I should say. It's gonna get nasty, grimy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good time. But if you're watching this and you haven't played the game, watch the hell out because we're gonna spoil everything right now. You've been warned. We're hopping into the spoiler mode right now. Bam!
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Okay, everybody. It's been a long time since...
Feels good. We're done.
Yeah, we did it. It's
did
been
it.
out for over a month now, but the time has come. We've all beaten this game, Elden Ring, several times now. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good video game, I would say.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Obviously, my opinion of the game was known pretty quickly because I did the review. I thought it was an excellent video game, and one of the greatest open world games of all time in my review. Give me some quick thoughts about this. What are y'all thinking? Just some quick overview impressions.
I like it a lot. It's really just... I marvel at how it's all put together and how well they did with it. I think that some of the stuff I feel like everybody didn't need to be named M names
M's
and R
with
names
R's,
and
yeah.
G names, and I get it, GRRM, I get it. I see what you're doing, very cute, but it's annoying. It's confusing.
Well, it's because a lot of them are family members, too.
Right, yeah, and they're all like versions of each other and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's kind of a funny game, but yeah, obviously it's so good.
So good. What do you think, Damiani?
Man, this game sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks.
True.
Everything's copy-paste
True.
design.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it
How many
is.
more caves do I have to go into? Every fortress looks the same.
Lazy developers.
Yeah.
Well, and they're just borrowing from all their previous
Yeah, they
games.
just took every zone from all the previous games
Yeah.
and slapped
Yeah.
them on there.
Same exact zones.
Literally the same exact zones.
Same boss fights, same frenzy
That's right.
towers.
Same boss fights. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I was actually surprised by the design of the world, that despite that obvious thing that we were just like alluding to, that I was alluding to, that there is a little bit of semblance of like the old DNA, like
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
permeating throughout this game. Everything is so purposely and thoughtfully placed in this world that you are constantly challenged and rewarded for challenging yourself to, what if I go over here? What is that over here? How do I even get up to here? How do I get down to there? And like, can you even get down there? Oh, I'm just going to die. No, there actually is a way to go down. Like, the thing I love to bring up is the very beginning, once you get out of the training area and come to the surface. If you go behind, once you get like, you don't even need torrent. When you go behind, there's like a cliff. You can go all the way down there. And I'm like, wait a second, like, what? It's like, how, you can, like, and it keeps going. And I'm like, stuff like that. It just, what can I do? Which I think was such a strong point about another similar open world game. It evoked the same feeling was in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Like, can I do this?
Yeah.
And how do I do this? And figuring that out.
Yeah, I think for most of us here, open world games aren't anything new, but to us, like, you could like paint a broad stroke of this game being like, it's open world Dark Souls. And like, yeah, that's true, but it's really how well everything's crafted and put together. I have no problem with open world games, with like the Ubisoft, the Horizons, or kind of like even Ghostwire Tokyo, which I'm playing right now and I like, is very much like that. But I think all of us prefer this more open world where you're encouraged to just go out there
Oh, for
and discover
sure.
things on your own.
I wouldn't say I have a problem with those other games. They're just not interesting to me in the slightest.
Right.
Like, I played like a half an hour of Horizon 2, and I was just like, nah.
Yeah. Nah. Not
This
for
isn't worth my time to me, just because I don't like that stuff.
But yes, this is an over thing, maybe overused, but I don't care. It's very accurate as it gave me feelings of Breath of the Wild of...
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't play the same. You don't go through the world the same. You don't traverse it the same way, but it's very much like, what the hell is that? I want to check that out over there. There's not like markers puked up all over your screen telling you where every little thing of interest is.
Yeah.
And I greatly appreciated that.
Yeah. Open world games, they give you that true freedom.
Yeah.
That there really isn't a set things you need to, like, the game isn't telling you need to be accomplishing this stuff. Like it does give you like an outline, a very basic outline.
Yeah.
But other than that, a lot of times you just feel, am I supposed to be going this way? I can go this way. Cool. I'm just gonna go do this, and that leads to so many different people in the beginning. Oh, where'd you go? You went this way? Well, like I went to Caelid very early. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? It looks terrifying, but I'm gonna keep trying here. There's some there's some cool areas I want to look at where I also didn't go to the academy till like way later, way late in my first playthrough. I was like, wait,
weird.
that was supposed to be. It's supposed to be the second major area you go to, like in Great Ruin. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know about. I kept seeing it. I'm like, how do I go here? There's this barrier, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize there's some dragon with a key that like I was supposed to go behind and get. I'm like, I just kept going past it. I'm like, I'm going over here, and I ended up in like some like crystal caves, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
You just made me realize, most open world games they're big, but they're pretty driven. Like, they're like suggested, but you can't ignore it. You know, this is just like truly just like go.
I think this game does suggest though where you should be.
Oh, for sure. I think it kind of leads you astray, honestly. Like if you go straight into Stormvale without doing anything else first, you're probably doing yourself a disservice.
No, yeah, this is interesting design aspect. I've noticed as someone, like, I feel like I picked up on a lot of the clues that From Software was giving me as a player of like, hey, maybe you should come back kind of thing. Like right away when you get outside for the first time, the tree sentinel's there and he just like one-shots you. To me, that is a clear define of, hey, maybe you shouldn't approach things that you see right away and beat your head against them. Come back.
Right,
It's
come
encouraging
back
you
later.
to explore, I think, but...
Which is weird because you have to go past Tree Sentinel. Because
Right.
like the definitive two first things you probably, quote unquote, have to do, or like you're missing out if you don't do them, or go to Church of Yala, learn about blacksmithing, and then go to the Stormvale Gate and get Torrent, which apparently Bloodworth did not do for like
Which is
7
funny.
hours.
So funny.
So
Bloodworth did
funny.
classic.
Does not have the horse. He was like, I've been playing for 6 hours. I don't know when you get the horse. And I was just like, what? It's like,
Well, yeah.
you can get it in 4 minutes,
I
what?
didn't get summons for the longest time.
Well, because you have to randomly go back. Like, it's so weird.
And then I realized you have to buy an item back at the round table, and then you can give it to someone, and that allows you to start summoning.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Your
You don't have
not
to get
other
summons from-
humans, but summoning like the
Oh,
ghosts,
if
the
you
puppets.
go to Church of Yala, you get it from
If you
Ronnie.
go
apparently
at night at a certain time, you'll get it.
After a certain
You
It
can
has to
miss
be
it.
night?
after a
I
certain
didn't
point,
know
she will no longer
Yeah, you
appear
can miss
there
it.
anymore.
It's
Yeah,
not-
So I did
Oh,
not
it's very
required.
missable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
So I was like, what is this jellyfish thing everyone's telling me to summon? I don't have the summon like monsters and animals. Like what? What are you guys
Pokemon.
like? What?
It's kind of weird. Like, it's funny because I love these games and because I've played so many of them that I'm kind of just like, yeah. But, like, thinking about stuff like that, I could see someone who just came in being like, what the fuck is happening? Like, and beating their head against Margit, like, 800 times and just getting pissed and quitting. Like, that fully... Because that's what the game is telling you to do. It straight up tells you to do that.
It tells you to do that, but I think people get too focused on
Yeah,
something
yeah.
and don't beeline it. They ignore the
because
open
they're
world.
they're used to...
They're used to having their hand held so hard.
Ubisoft games where you have to do what you're told to do because they're not actually open world games.
And to
but,
me,
yeah.
that first Tree Sentinel or Margit is a clear indicator of the game telling you to explore.
Yeah.
That's the developers telling you to explore, but a lot of people do miss that. So
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
really interesting to see that. I have a few Huber notes.
Oh.
Huber wasn't able to be here, but I have a few notes that he wanted to just quickly share about his experience because Huber has also played through this game.
Yeah.
So, Huber notes, loved Godfrey, the first Elden Lord boss. You can imagine.
The one at the end, the Horaloo
yes, with
one?
the two-handed axe phase. Then he
And a ghost
rips
lion?
the fucking ghost lions apart. Then he's like Hercules, like grabs you and like suplexes you. Of course, he loved that. Also, of course, he loved the fire giant boss, which I did not love my first time playing.
The boss is, yeah. I mean, it's fun thematically, but it's not like hard or
Yes.
interesting.
And he also loved the brick hammer.
Of course he did,
Yeah,
yes.
you like
Of course, he
Yeah,
loved the brick
yeah.
hammer. He said heavy brick hammer, but that's just the specialization of
Yeah, it's
strength.
the aspect or whatever.
He also used the front flip weapon art a lot, so
Oh, that's cute.
the guts flip. So yeah, he really
Yeah.
loved that.
Sick.
I could see that. What was your build?
Well, my first playthrough?
Yeah.
The
Or
first
your
time.
favorite build or whatever.
I'll just say the first time I played the game, I was going with strength mostly. I was using the sword and shield for like half the game. I really like sword and shield in Souls games for a while. Then I got the ultra great sword, the guts one, and I was like, well, I jumped R2'd some dude and he face planted, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this from now on. Then eventually I was dual wielding ultra great swords at the end.
Fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was good.
I never used a shield once. I was doing just a like I started with just a like crescent falchion and a staff, and then I got katanas, and then I was just dual katanas the whole rest of it.
What'd you do on me?
Claw for a while too. I was
Yeah.
doing claw.
Yeah, I did one of the long swords and the shield. What was it like it's been so long, I can't remember like the silver shield thing that I was like using for a while, and then like I got one that like required some amount of like interfaith just to use it properly, but for the longest time I was just using it was like actually no, it was like the bronze like dragon shield or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I got like 10 of them over all my playthroughs.
Yeah.
They're so common. But I went with blood loss, Ash of War on that,
okay.
and like that was what I really
On the shield?
on the sword.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the shield I put parry, put Ash of War for more parry on that, and then after making that like plus 25, I was like, oh yeah, like this is kind of like not. I could like I should get one of these like rare weapons and start like putting some stuff into that, and I ended up going with the sword from a Volcano Manor boss.
Oh,
the one
the
covered
hands?
in like
Little hand, yeah.
Yeah, that
Blood
thing's
hand.
gross.
yeah, and it's like covered in like those the
The blood hands?
yeah. And its special thing was like the fire thing when you do like the L2, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's pretty sick. And then once I beat the game, I dual wielded and got the sword you get from the final boss.
Oh, right.
That's a good one.
yeah,
With
and
the
then
huge
I
AoE?
used those two together.
Oh, yeah. That's
Just
good
Golden
like
stuff.
Arc or whatever.
because they seemed like they do like the most damage when they're maxed out. So I was like, ooh, dual wielding these
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
pretty nice. And then on I did play the PC version as well, and I just went with like a scepter and did like a full like
Magic build?
yeah, full
Cool.
magic build. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I'm doing Faith on my Steam Deck, but I haven't really done much.
loved instead of using a lantern or torch to light things, using
Oh,
the
you used the
spell,
spell? Yeah.
just to go like that
fun.
was so fun because it's like so much more illuminated with that.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
much brighter.
"Ooh,
Yeah.
this is way better.
Yeah, totally. And I think it should be more bright. You know, it's a spell actually. You need stats to use it, but it doesn't last forever. It's not a lot, though, to use. I have some questions from our patrons, so I'm going to go through some of these.
Cool.
Raul Misal wants to know, how do you imagine Elden Ring will impact games to come in the future? How will it influence games from other studios across all genres? I think it's an interesting question, especially because we were talking about the open world design of this game.
Yeah, I feel like Breath of the Wild was the first step in this where it's like everyone was like, oh, climbing, like you should really actually be able to go everywhere in the world. Like you should actually be able to do that. And a few games took that note, right? And like gliding and stuff. And you saw a bunch of people start doing that. What I hope people take from this is not trying to do the like difficulty stuff, because like Pretenders at the Throne of Souls games like very rarely hit, in my opinion. What I hope the note they take is just like good world design,
Yeah.
like making the world interesting and
Yeah.
rewarding curiosity instead of just telling you everywhere to
I
go.
think that's the lesson.
That's
I would
the
want them to learn.
lesson. Yeah. I mean, there are lots of other little things. I mean, like it's a masterclass in micro design and macro design. Like everything is so well put together, and like a great threading together of open world and legacy dungeons, and then smaller encounters, like even in good enemy placement in rooms versus like whole dungeons and stuff. Like Stormvale is great, and Haligtree is great, and like the capital is huge and confusing and weird, but it's really fun.
Yeah, it's like dense.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, and like those are great like Dark Souls, Bloodborne levels within an open world game. It's like you can have both. Breath of
Yeah.
the Wild.
It reminds me of Immortals Phoenix Rising, this Ubisoft game that you reviewed actually, Damiani, that very much was like, hey, let's make our own kind of Breath of the Wild game. They took some lessons from it, but they missed the mark, I feel like, in many ways. especially in its presenting of its locations in this world. Of essentially in this game, you would stand up at certain locations and scan like points of interest. And
Yeah.
just boop, boop,
They
boop,
did
boop, pop up on your
the
map.
Ubisoft thing.
Yeah, which totally like ruined a lot of the sense of exploration for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I will argue though that it's just they're two different things.
Yes,
I don't think
they are.
I actually don't think either one is actually better. It's just what people prefer.
Right.
Some people love open world games, but the problem with the encounter with Elden Ring is there's not really a good tracking system in this of any kind. Yeah, you can put down like markers on that, but they like the ease of how Ubisoft like does it in Immortals. It's you want to get lost. Like you still can get lost. I understand for some people this giant beam of light in the distance is like just like that takes you out of it. But for some people, it's like I'm gonna go down this way. I'm still immersed in this. I'm still exploring over here. But when I finish that, it's like, oh, remember that thing I flagged earlier of interest? I should go back to that. Now there are markers in here, but I think like speaking specifically to even like the quests in this game, how hard it was originally before even the patch added like in names at locations where NPCs are, like you got to like manually track that stuff. Some people don't want to do that.
And
So
you just have to like guess, like,
Yeah.
where'd Fia go? Who the fuck? No, oh, she's down here. Oh, okay. Like, oh, I have to talk to Ronnie's doll. At
This
this
reminds me
specific
of a lot
bonfire?
of stuff in the sense of I realize that a lot of people they want to do everything and not miss anything.
Yeah.
Which I think is not necessarily From Software's intent with this, is like they fully expect you to miss things and are
They want
okay
you
with
to
that. That's part of
accidentally stumble on.
Sometimes, yes, they want you to have that, which has been interesting. I wonder if they'll kind of adjust that later on.
I do like how there actually is something in the game for everything, how to figure out everything. There's an NPC you might encounter a certain time that if you actually engage with them and like somehow know how to follow up with them, like the woman who has like the wolf that died on like the west side of the
Loretta.
world.
Yeah.
And then when she joins with you as like a spirit and her voice kicks in when you reach the snowy area. It's like, oh, this is how you know how to get like the 2 medallion things and like how to go to the consecrated.
Did you see the thing that if you can summon her as a spirit ash and she's like a turret, she'll just stand in one place and shoot.
Shoot, yeah.
If apparently I saw someone found out that if you summon her next to a direwolf enemy, she'll ride the fucking direwolf enemy.
Oh,
So cool.
So cool. And to me, that type of system, it's great. I think. And I love how quest lines will take you to so many different areas and have really good payoffs in terms of go down to this area and explore. It gives you like purpose. It just, I think it needs a little bit more. I don't know if cohesion's the right word.
Or guidance?
Like a little bit more focus or just a tiny bit more. Like it's just it comes down to tracking. Like it's you lose track of these NPCs, and I get From Software wants you to like aimlessly kind of like wander around and like if you miss them, so be it. Go back in a playthrough and like, all right, where did I leave off? But at the same time, look, the question of this, like if someone could do a little bit better job of the quest, just like like mapping it out, it's something that could pay off really well. I think.
I kind of disagree because I think that FromSoft's whole ethos is the zeitgeist and is the conversation and is like watching VaatiVidya videos and going on wikis and like learning stuff way later and being like, wait, what? You can do this? Like she goes over there. Like you have to like discovering the weird shit. And I think that they want that. And I think it's kind of good business because it's like it keeps the game in the conversation for way longer. Whereas like if the game was tracking quests, it just wouldn't. You wouldn't have to talk about it.
I guess. I mean, that's true. But I also think that might also be very unique to just like that's what Souls has established itself as.
Right.
Like its identity.
It's a
It'd be
special
disappointed.
thing, yeah.
Whereas like I'm thinking of Breath of the Wild sequel. I'd love to see them do a more involved NPC quest. It's just when I initiate one, it's like maybe it's not in my face. It's just somewhere in like a menu. It can go, hey, remember this quest that you activated?
Like a
It's
journal?
like yeah,
of
just
what
something
you've
that says
done?
like, hey, keep pursuing this because, and also I think it could have just as good of a narrative payoff because that's one of the things I think they need to figure out with Breath of the Wild sequel that I think Elden Ring does pretty nicely is the more you pursue these, the more of the lore you get behind characters in the world, and it fosters the explorative nature of the game. That like the more you explore, the more you're going to learn about it. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it was like the memories. Like, oh, if you explore enough, you get a memory for Link, and I'm like, you could do it. Like this showed a better way to do it. I think enough. I mean, that's why I think why they patched it in the end was because enough people were complaining about the tracking of NPCs. Like, at least give us like names at a site of grace, and maybe a little bit like this.
I could see them doing something like Outer Wilds. In your ship, the computer will add things to a journal, and it has like a logic tree of like things like linking together, and it doesn't tell you like you have to do this. It doesn't tell you like, oh, I spoke to this person or whatever. It just says like there's a building here that seems to be like this in nature, and like that's it. And so but it's enough to help you track everything you're doing, because you can look and say like, okay, that still is yellow. Why is that still yellow? I need to figure something else out.
Yeah, no.
Like, that would work. In Dark Souls 2, they kind of did something. I mean, that's very vague, but like they had a map on the ground that would light up fires when you beat bosses.
That was
but
very
it's like
confusing.
Very, very, very vague.
They played too. It's just somewhere to go again, like and like you just have to read. The very least is like you got to go somewhere and read something, and it's not going to literally tell you go to this zone or something. It's
this
like
game I think tried to kind of do this with what's his name, the All-Knowing. They sort of did that. Like more than any other FromSoft game, this game holds your hand, which I know to people who haven't played the other ones might be like, what? But this one, like, he'll like basically tell you where to go.
Damiani, I'm all for them incorporating some way of maybe guiding a little easier, but I absolutely think they need to keep this sense of mystery and discovery from their quest lines. I don't want them to lose that kind of discovery aspect in this. I'll give you an example of one thing I really liked about my experience reviewing this game. So, if you guys remember the guy that's hidden underground, like in a little cave area in that ruined village, he has the other medallion piece. He's like hidden as a pot.
Yeah.
There's like some NPC that tells you kind of about like someone over there. But when I was playing the game for review, I saw a little message saying like a chameleon was here or something was there. So I rolled into him. And it was the guy. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy. This was like the kind of sense of discovery and community, which is so important to these types of games, that I think which helps alleviate a lot of the mystery for some things. Which was so cool about the medallion also was it's not necessary to get to the plateau.
Yeah,
you can go through the other mines and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
that.
you won't do some of the other quest lines, but it's
when I unlocked
not
the
essential.
Dectus one, it was like many hours after I'd already done all of that, and then I was just like, oh, well, that was pointless. But now it's how I get through a playthrough in 2 hours. So it's like whatever.
I do think the journal is an interesting idea of who you've met, I guess, kind of. I wonder if they worry about it taking away some of the RP aspects of your character. But I think what I also like about how it is now is it really it teaches you to really respect and pay attention to what characters tell you. And I think so many people are so used to just looking in a quest log or something like that. But it's like, no, you got to talk to this person, see what they got to say.
I guess I agree with all this. And I think it works very well in every previous FromSoft game that they've done this with. My chief argument against... my chief pushback against this game is fucking massive.
Yeah.
And it's a giant open world. I think it's a little too much to ask of the average person to do all this and take that into consideration when you're dealing with so many other factors that are challenging you in terms of like exploration and just overcoming all these obstacles. And it's such a big scale. I think they needed to throw a little bit more of a bone to the player on this one. And I think because I haven't played it post-patch because I already did everything. I didn't have the advantage of playing any playthrough where Site of Grace will tell me an NPC's there. And like even just that, it's like, oh, that person's name. I forgot about that name. Like that's just something on there. It's not giving anything like critical weight. It's just like, oh, a name. I forgot about that name. Like even that would have helped.
I think FromSoftware wants messages to do a lot of that.
They do.
And they want Fextra Life to do a lot of that.
Fextra
No,
Life.
I'm not even kidding.
There we go,
Like
yeah.
they want you to look stuff up when you're curious, talk to people. Like you know, on my first playthrough, I don't look stuff up until it's like the very end, and I'm like, where did this NPC go? And I'll just like search their name and be like, okay, I have to go here, and like then I stop reading, right? And then like otherwise I hear about stuff by talking to people, like talking to Brad or Ben or Huber, or like people on Twitter where they're like, "Oh yeah, did you see that?" And I'm like, "No, where was that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's over here." And then I go look, like that's what they want. And I think like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I like the sense of community this game has. I don't want it to be like a closed off community where none are like welcome. It's closed off. I want people,
Right.
I want new people to come into these
Absolutely.
games. But I definitely think there's some magic there in the sense of figuring stuff out and talking with people, which I like which is very unique for video games nowadays. Of
Yeah.
the sense of talking with people, figuring out stuff. Like, how many games do you get that feeling with nowadays? Almost none.
like,
Especially an
very
open world
little.
game. It's all pretty much spelled out for you most
Well,
of the
and
time.
like the hugest thing with From Software that's been clear since all of them, but like even Demons and Dark Souls especially, like they don't care if you miss things.
I mean, back to even Kingsfield, this has always been a From Software design thing of
Yeah.
like, we don't
Like-
give a shit if you miss this.
like Ash Lake is hidden behind like 4 illusory walls.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who does that? That's amazing. Like that's
Yeah.
why, and this game is like that on steroids.
but
like Haligtree is like nigh impossible to get to unless
Yeah.
you're paying attention, right?
I want to say this though, Damiani, I'm not closed-minded to the idea of them trying to make things a little more approachable for newer players and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just and it's a strictly NPC tracking. Like I that was it. It was
That
just
was it
like
for you?
it was a bit of an issue for me to where I got to the end and I was like, wow, like I missed whole NPCs and it's like great. And I felt like after I learned the lesson of Stormveil, like okay, I did do the mistake of banging my head against the wall and stuff. But once I got past the point, I'm like, all right, let me stop doing that. Going forward, we're not going to do that anymore. Except for a certain other boss near the optional near the end, but that
This
was
is
like
spoiler mode, bitch.
Yeah,
Just
you
say
can
it.
say it.
Oh, we haven't gotten to that subject yet.
Just talk about
okay.
it.
Melania.
It's spoiler mode.
Melania,
Oh,
yeah.
fuck
Yeah.
Melania. I love her so much.
But they're optional, so it's like you don't have to do that. But
Ugh, she's so
it wasn't
hard.
the reason I want to bring it up because we don't get into it yet because the point I'm trying to make is that I did start to go out and explore, and I was cared more about. I want to like find NPCs. I want to see what they
Yeah.
do. I want to see like where their quest lines go, and yet I still miss so much. And and it's true. Like you do go online after your first playthrough, you look up stuff, and that's great. But I also, while I understand that is a good component on a personal level, it frustrates me that that's something that if that's what they really rely on a lot and they count on that happening, that it's feels almost impossible on a first playthrough to actually, if you really want to do something and like you lose track of it, it's like it's so difficult to follow sometimes. It's a different type of frustration in like, oh, I can't beat a boss. That's fine. I understand that. And like, that's expected. And like, you go do something else. But when you go do something else and it's about like following a quest line, to me, I don't know. I just got the thing where something just like snapped in me and I was like, man, I love what they're trying to do, but I think they go too far. And because it's open world, I know I'm regurgitating the same point, but like it just got on my nerves at some point. I'm like, Give me a little bit more of a benefit of a doubt here. You can take away some of the other stuff, like the other elements you're saying, kind of like guiding hand stuff in there. You could take those away for me. It was just like NPC and quest tracking. It's like, don't go freaking full Ubisoft. Just like, yeah, give me the lore book or something. I know, like it just was just one of the more frustrating things. Despite like when I was streaming this game, I was showing frustration against bosses, but like on a personal reflection level, it's like I really wish I had figured out like the whole frenzied lord like thing on my own. Like I had to look that up. I'm like, you know what? I wish I just felt like I just need a little bit more on that. But like the what's her face's quest line with like the grapes, which were eyeballs, like that was that was a little bit much for me. And then like the one quest line which wasn't even finished with Nepheli or whatever.
Yeah.
Like originally
patched it
wasn't
in.
even finished. So it's like sometimes
And-
I
and,
think they're trolls.
Even getting it to finish, I had to like teleport in and out like 2 times because you have to go to Godfrey's.
Stuff like that sucks.
That's a
Not
technical
being
thing,
finished,
yeah. But it's also like just the cryptic nature, and I get it. But like everything you're talking about here reminds me of like the original Legend of Zelda, and like I've had so many people complain about going back and playing it too because it does not hold your hand with that. Also, it's a little bit unfair with some of the
Mistranslation,
translations, but at the same time, it's doing literally the same thing but in like 2D, and I like that's fine, but like that's a 2D game. Even though you can go anywhere you want, it's not that big. This is freaking massive. So
maybe they could give you like, instead of getting a hint maybe at one NPC at one time, maybe they give you 2 hints or something. Maybe something. I do not want them to lose the nature of figuring stuff out. I really don't want that to go.
Yeah, that's the fun part about
What's
it
so
is like
funny
interpreting
about-
what they say. Yeah.
What's so funny about this, and like half the discourse about this game, no matter what opinion you have, it's like FromSoft's just gonna do whatever the fuck
Yeah, of
they
course.
want.
yeah,
yeah.
of
Like
course.
talking about they should do blank is pointless.
Yeah.
Let me clarify. When I say they should, I'm not actually talking about like FromSoft anymore. Like other games. Like,
see
and
someone take
I
this-
don't want to
yeah.
turn this into another game discussion, but like I'm looking at like Breath of the Wild sequel, and I'm like, you could like you don't need to do this because this is its own thing. But man, I would love it if you took like
Some ideas.
really
Would be
in-depth
cool.
NPC quests that take
Yeah.
you across the world and help.
Yeah.
It's the way you find out about secrets, how you find out about new zones, and they have like great narrative payoffs.
Yeah.
And I think they could streamline that a little bit more without going full like Ubisoft, where it's like, here's the quest tracker in your right hand, and we're gonna put the marker on the map for you. Like those exist in those games, and those are fine. But I guess a middle ground. I'm sorry it took so long to
sure.
get to the point, but a middle ground between FromSoft and Ubisoft, and it's like. Someone find that. I think for me that would be like perfect.
Sure. Let's get another question from Arthur Loins. Do you think this game will have DLC, or will they move on to the next project like they did with Sekiro?
It'll definitely have DLC.
This also feels like the end of their Souls games. Do you think From Software will now try their hand at different game styles or keep iterating?
What
yes.
are those cathedrals for?
There's going to be
Or the
DLC. Absolutely.
Colosseums?
Colosseums, yeah.
Bandai Namco is attached to this IP, and they very much want to keep this going. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a semi-sequel or something like that. A spiritual successor. I do think they're already working on another project. Like, they have more than one game
for
going at a
sure,
time.
yeah.
Like, Sekiro and this were going at the same time. So, I think, there's the rumored, like, mech game, whatever the hell
Yeah.
that'll be. Like, it won't be like this game. But,
I think they're probably gonna stagger. Yeah, they'll do like something weird, Sekiro or Armored Core or something between more traditional Souls-esque games. This game made too much money. Like they're not. They
Yeah.
like even if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I feel like the money people won't
And
let them.
honestly, like From Software as a core as a company, they love dark fantasy
Yeah.
RPGs. They always have, even before
Yeah.
Miyazaki was working on their games. Like it's just in their
it
DNA.
sneaks in there even when they're not doing it. Like
Yeah.
Sekiro, I was like, oh, they're just gonna do a straight feudal Japan. Like, oh no, they're not. Like, oh okay.
DLC though, yeah.
Yeah.
The question is, how many DLCs will there be?
Oh, multiple.
Yeah, well, because for Dark Souls 3, they did one big one. For Dark Souls 2, they did 3.
They for 2 they were separate originally.
yeah.
They came out of
There
meal
were 3,
piece.
and then you got
then the big.
Scholar of the First Sin.
Yes.
But for Dark Souls 3, it was just...
It was 2.
Was
There's
it 2?
Yeah.
I thought
there
it was
the
just,
the
the
Arian
Sinking City or
Dell.
whatever.
I forgot what the Ashes
There's
of Arian Dell.
two,
Oh, yeah,
'cause
yeah, yeah.
Whatever
That's
it's
right.
called.
Yeah,
I
there
did
were
2
2.
with Huber.
And
One played
Bloodborne was 1.
Bloodborne was 1, and
Sekiro
Dark
was
Souls
0.
1 was also 1.
Dark Souls 1 was, just 1.
Seen the thing about what it could be? Did you see like all the?
I did see the pointing.
the towers pointing
At
towards
one-
like a
the cloud
spot in
on the
middle
map.
of the map that's cloudy or whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah.
people broke
Wait,
the game
all
to go
the
there.
Divine Towers?
Yeah. all the
Yes,
divine
they point
towers.
to like one specific point on the
the
map.
map that's
Oh my
like completely
God.
fogged out
Yeah,
even in
it's
game.
fogged out.
And they're trying to like obscure what's
okay,
there.
that's fucking sick.
I like
Another
the Colosseums
underground
for
area?
sure.
for the only
you
unanswered.
could go underground
yeah,
like everywhere.
Yeah,
There's
for,
so much unused space.
I guess the only unanswered thing I know is well, there's obviously the other outer gods and how many there are out there in that world,
Yeah.
but there's also Mikola, who is still asleep
Still in the egg.
in
yeah.
the egg thing. Mikola could show up later, or just some weird other elder god like the one Mo.
Oh, they like hint at it. Like
Yeah.
Godfrey, is that the all-knowing Godfrey? No, Gideon?
Yeah.
Gideon. He basically says like, is he gonna do something? Like
Yeah.
if he stays asleep, that's cool, but maybe we should go kill him? Like
Yeah.
like in game they say like he's gonna do something, right?
And now that his sister is dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw another good idea for DLC.
Yeah.
The Frenzied Lord ending, in
Yeah.
my opinion, was
Oh,
like one
yeah.
of was the best ending in terms of
Evil
like.
ending.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well,
But it definitely sets
Chaotic
shit up.
ending.
Hunting your own character as Melina would be fucking tight.
That's
would be
what I'm
so
talking about. Because at
cool.
the end, she's like, I'll deliver what you deserve, death. And I'm
If
like,
you do it in the right order.
I was like, okay, well, follow up. You're gonna play as her hunting down your character,
That would
and I'm
be
like, you're
wild.
the boss. You're like the new Elden Ring or Elden
The
God.
only
so.
reason I'll push back on that is they never do DLC that takes place after the endings of the game.
oh yeah,
Because they don't
Okay.
want to ruin the
Yeah.
RP of your ending.
yeah.
Maybe they could expand upon her character in it, though. They
Sucks
could do something
that-
like that.
I'm in New Game Plus on a crit path run now for any DLC.
Yeah.
Like I haven't done any of the other
Yeah.
shit.
You're
I'll
kind
just
of
make a new
right.
character.
Like
Yeah,
the
I'll
DLC is
start
always
over.
like some tangential thing that doesn't
Yeah.
tie into the ending. But for a follow up, man, I'd love that. Like it just like that. I know whatever ending you get, like if you like it, that should be like your RP ending. But having seen the 3 major variations, not every variation of like just the default one, man, I thought like the Ranny one was gonna be like the coolest one. I kind of like that, but then when I saw Frenzied Lore, it was like this was like the longest
Burn
ending, and it felt like the
chaos.
most involved, and it was like the most involved to unlock it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
Stars
Ronnie's,
and
you
Fia
got to
are
do
the
a lot,
hardest,
too.
Yeah.
yeah,
The Ronnie ending I love so much because like I mean I played as a girl obviously, like my game ended in a lesbian star wedding? Like come on. That's the best FromSoft ending ever.
just stars.
Loved it. That was the first ending I did.
I
was
would
Stars.
like, so before Queen America and all that took over, in Lands Between, there was the dragons that kind of ruled, and there was the rumored,
Classic
first Elden Lord was a dragon. I would like maybe if it kind of dived into that whole thing
Oh,
going on.
sick.
Like, we get a taste of that later in the game, like the dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah. And if you fight the boss
But
at
I
Crumbling Farum Azula, I think that's
I guess the two-headed dragon, I forget his name, the optional boss, he might
Oh,
be that
the freaking
Elden
Godzilla
Lord.
boss.
He's the one in Crumbling Farum Azula.
Yeah,
I
he
think
might
he's
have
meant
been.
to be that.
He might have been that character.
boss.
But
Like
yeah.
that arena was so sick. By the way,
That
with the
was a crazy
lightning, I
fight,
swear
yeah.
it looked like the shot of like Godzilla when he fights like Ghidorah, whatever the 3-headed one is. I know it's
Yeah.
only 2-headed, but
Ghidorah.
it was so sick.
While we're on the topic of endings, this is from Frenzied Flame Y2 Kyle 89. Said, I noticed that in Steam's global achievement thing that Ronnie's ending is the one most people get. While everyone is loving Ronnie is probably a factor. I think that following her route gives a more directed and I don't know level curve path through the game. Not sure how to turn this into a question, but I hope the thoughts in this trying to lead to an interesting discussion.
Hers is definitely the most like overt, like non-Melina storyline.
Yes.
In the game?
Yes.
Like
Where
the
it feels
easiest to
there.
follow,
Yeah.
the easiest, like most
Because like you
fleshed
run
out.
into Blythe and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and he's all linked. You run into a lot of characters.
It's got like
linked to her.
5 supporting characters in the same
Yeah, it
quest.
feels like
it's,
the second most important.
it's the
quest.
biggest other quest for sure.
My-
And Fia maybe is third,
Yeah.
but hers is more confusing.
My first playthrough, I did most of her quest line, but I didn't know about talking to the doll multiple times. At that spot, I talked to her like once, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, maybe I didn't figure something out." Which I'm like sneaky, but at the same time, I'm thinking of Damiani's complaint of maybe like making a little more so you don't miss that as easy.
You can talk to her in her chambers also.
Yeah, I
later.
don't know necessarily about talking to hitting a dialogue box 3 times. I think that's really fun, and I do like that, but I can see how that could be a frustrating aspect.
I didn't know about talking to the doll until my friend Jason mentioned.
Yeah,
like, Did
exactly.
you talk to the doll? I'm like, fucking what?
Obviously, I was in a very different position than most people when playing this game, so I couldn't like reach out to talk to people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah. And as you said, I like how it just like opens up so many other quest lines with other characters.
yeah,
I did like that in my, and I think in a lot of people's experience, like the first playthrough took me 103 hours, I think, and I had met the requisites to choose between Fia's death ending, the stars ending, and the normal ending, and maybe a couple other ones. And I did the stars one, but it was kind of cool in a Souls game to literally have like choices
Yeah.
at the end,
yeah.
which was kind of neat. And I could have done the frenzied ending. I found the door and I knew what to do because like a message was like no armor, and I was like, okay, so you go naked in here, I guess. But I was like, this seems
Yeah.
weird and this seems ominous. And then the other guy not Satori or whatever, but like when a new soul is in that samurai guy's body, like later in the snow area, when he was like, "Oh yeah, this is a new person, but go do the frenzied ending," and I was like, I don't know.
that was the thing. Like to kind of also give defense to the earlier thing we were talking about, not knowing if something's going to like really impact the whole Volcano Manor quest line. I thought like, oh, you're gonna hunt Tarnish. I'm like, oh, this is gonna obviously trigger a bad end or a different type of ending. It's like, no, it doesn't
Which is
have
funny
any
because
bearing
like,
on it.
My Dark Souls training is like has me thinking like, okay, are these really the good guys? Like,
Yeah.
And like the whole game, I was like, okay, so the 2 fingers are probably scuffed, right? Like this is like some dumb weird, like. Everyone follows this old thing, but it's not the real thing. And, like, the game tells you that in multiple ways. And even Melina is like, we need to burn this thing down. And it's really interesting.
Which is a very common From Software storytelling thing.
Yeah.
There's a question about that later.
Yeah,
Well, this is the most anime FromSoft game of all time. Like, the plot line is literally killing multiple gods, becoming a god. Like, all of them do that. But then, like, burning a giant tree, going to a floating tornado castle in the sky, and fighting a dragon. It's just like, my God. It's so anime.
I don't know if you have a question about like bosses or like something.
The next question was from Brandon Ray. Who was the hardest boss for you?
Hardest.
Also,
Millennia.
what was the biggest surprise? But you can obviously talk about whatever you want.
Well, I mean, I probably share the same sentiment of who was the hardest boss, but I'll let others speak to that one because
God.
Millennia.
the one I was like the
Millennia,
most
for sure.
surprised about and thought was cool was the Fire Lord, the Volcano Manor,
Oh, yeah.
the serpent dude.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you
The
get
gimmick boss?
yeah, because you
Rykard.
get the weapon, and I'm like, I almost missed the weapon. I'm like, wait a second,
Another
and then-
FromSoft staple.
and
Yeah,
like
Storm
lessening,
Blade or whatever.
And if I hadn't done Souls 3 with Huber only a few months before, I'm like, oh yeah, there was that one boss where he was like, dude, like, because I kept struggling. He's like, Huber's trying to hint at me like, hey, don't think about something. Did you get something before this fight? I'm like, oh, does this weapon have a special ability? And so when I saw that weapon offering, I'm like, didn't even have to read the message in front of it. I'm like, okay, let's try this special ability. It's like, whoa, this is freaking. It felt like an Osir's Wrath battle.
Yeah.
At
Did you
times.
play Demon Souls?
They do, yeah. It's basically
I
identical to Demons.
don't know if I got far enough in Demon Souls
Okay.
then to
There's
do
the
that
king,
part.
Yeah,
the
there's a
Storm,
Storm
King.
King.
No,
You
There's
have
a
to
sword,
kill-
like the same thing. You grab it, shoots.
Same
like,
thing
air.
in Dark Souls 3 with the giant.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if
exactly
they
it.
do this in 2 or 1. Dark Souls 1, Bed of Chaos is kind of the gimmick boss like this,
Ugh.
which everyone hates. 2, I don't remember
I can't remember. off the
one
top of my
like
head.
this, but
2 has a lot of
there
bosses.
are at least 3 that I can think of where it's like, you need this sword, basically.
I loved it because it gives the illusion that you're super powerful, but it's just like it's for the gimmick to have the range, but it was still very threatening because of like how much range the boss also had against you, like
Yeah.
the serpent head strikes, and in that second phase, with like the freaking meteors falling over the place,
Yeah.
like it was a very good spectacle battle.
Did you
and,
go back there later?
Oh no, why?
Tanith, the volcano
Yeah.
lady?
Yeah, the dragon lady?
She's down there. Not her
Snake-
mom.
snake- oh.
Not the snake girl.
Okay.
Her mom,
Oh, okay.
Tanith, the human, who is like giving you the volcano manor.
Oh, that's
stuff.
where she goes.
She
Okay.
goes down there and she's eating his corpse. And
I think
she's,
that's his wife.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like in love with him or whatever. But she's just like,
That's where she.
I need
goes.
more time. Our Lord's corpse is large. I need to finish. Please become. I
Yeah,
want to
'cause
like
he's-
give birth to your snake babies. And
He
it's just
will-
like, what the fuck?
He'll essentially be reborn. He's not.
Yeah.
He'll come
Okay.
back to life.
He's
That-
still like wriggling.
That
yeah.
knight that was always by her side, did he ever do anything?
I never
I don't
fought
know.
him.
Anything? I
I
was
don't
like, I
know.
always
I never fought
expected
him.
something.
Yeah, I
but
thought I was like, that guy's a tough
But
customer.
the other cool thing about that, not necessarily the boss fight, before I forget, Volcano Manor progression.
Mm-hmm.
If you do all the tarnished hunt marks, it just warps you to the
Yes.
boss. So
Yeah.
you don't even have to do all
The
the
whole
stuff.
manor.
Like you have to go through
The
the.
Rykard boss?
Yeah.
It goes right to
It'll
Rykard.
teleport
Yeah,
to
you
him.
don't even
Fun.
have to do all
I
that
killed
path
him.
to get there.
I killed him and I still had one, I think, mark left.
And
Yeah, you have to
she
do them all.
says that if
Yeah.
you
I
kill him too
believe.
soon, she's like, "Oh well, we're
she's like,
leaving."
you killed him.
Yeah.
I liked how she was like disappointed but not mad. She was like, yeah, it makes sense that you would do this. Okay,
Well,
like
it's
we're all
kind of
bastards.
their whole
like, yeah.
their whole motto, strength and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
that one guy, I forgot his name. He's sitting there in the room.
He's
I
like,
don't.
do it,
But
please do it.
love
Yeah.
that environment too. Like I love like
Yeah, Volcano Manor is
dungeons
one of my
that are
favorites.
like
Volcano Manor is
normal
amazing.
like buildings or castles or something like that. Because I mean,
They were
having, like,
slaves,
the invader
like,
on the
prisoners.
second floor,
Yeah.
just like random invader, and then like the secret pass below, and like just
Yeah.
that was like one of my favorite areas.
Nuts.
Yeah,
And yeah, she was just like, I heard something in the wall. Like I'd already discovered the hidden door before I talked to her, but like I was like, oh, I got there without doing any of this stuff, in Lucaria, so I hadn't talked to Prawn Guy or anything like that, so I couldn't do the Dung Eater quest all the way. Like I got him, I fought him, I released him, I did all
Yeah.
the stuff, but like the Prawn Guy wasn't there, so I
I
couldn't
didn't
like
even
finish it.
find
Loved
like,
how-
that whole deep sewer thing in my first
Oh my
playthrough.
God.
yeah. I had to look.
I didn't even
Subterranean
find
Shunning Ground. I stumbled into it because I went down that well, and I was like thinking like, oh, okay, there's an item, the thing, and then the fence opened, and I was like, oh, okay, and then it
Yeah.
just kept going, and I was like, this place is huge.
I think I was running for my life at that point and probably just ran past it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the capital is so
I came in because
liberating.
Yeah,
the
Capital's
samurai NPC that
excellent.
changed souls or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, you can go below the capital." But I was scared if I did that, it would trigger the
evil ending, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I won't be able to back out of this."
Shout out to the little like string instrument player in that
The capital?
really irritating part where you have to drop down in the shunning grounds to get to
Oh,
the
the
frenzy ending.
merchants?
Well, yeah, but they're like
Yes.
playing that
Yeah,
music.
it's all
Yeah.
merchants.
I love they do this several times throughout the game. This is a very musical game, but I think it's so well done that the instruments that the people are playing in world just perfectly mix with the soundtrack of the game itself. It's beautiful. Like the music in this game is gorgeous.
Yeah,
And I was listening to reading like the translation of the Latin that the Banshee women sing, and it's talking about like the Lord and we're tarnished, and like what if we have to do, like what did we do to like forsake you? and
That's
stuff like
such a
that.
funny thing.
It's
Like,
so
I
good.
remember hearing this voice. It's like, oh, what is this beautiful voice?
I know.
And you see it is, you're like, oh, I'm going to kill you now. You're
Well,
gross.
then she attacked me, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because I was hoping she was like an NPC,
Yeah.
like that I would get to talk to. And then
I
she
thought
like,
it was an NPC at first, too.
she
but
Same.
aggroed, and I was
Same.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
like,
Fucking
I
go.
wanted to be your friend.
but yeah, the Blade of Mikola.
yeah, Melania, definitely the hardest boss for me, too.
Well, Melania by far and away. Blade of Mikola, my first playthrough took me 2 tries. New Game Plus first try. New Game Plus took me like 10 or 12, so it got harder for sure. But Melania
I did not
was like 50
No,
tries.
so when I fought her the first time, my first playthrough, the only spirit ash I had was the wolves because I had like
Oh my
0
God.
FP. I had no idea about the mimic guy, how strong
Oh
they
my
were,
God,
anything
Mimic
like
is
that. That would have helped me a lot.
Did you
but-
beat it with just the wolves?
No, I got
okay.
really close and I was like, oh, I gotta beat the game. I gotta finish this review.
Okay,
like I
okay.
played a lot of the game. I explored everything. I found everything that I could.
Yeah.
I didn't have areas that I didn't like. I went everywhere I found, and I didn't know where to go for anything else. Then I was
Yeah.
like, all right, now I'll beat the game, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's so many bosses that are really pretty wild in this game. It's funny because I had Mimic Tier, and I was telling the chat last night, like Mimic Tier kind of made me lazy because like
Yeah.
it breaks the game. Like even post nerf, like
It's very powerful.
you
Yeah,
don't have to
Yeah.
play well anymore. Like you can just kind of like I one-shotted every boss except for Melania and the final boss.
yeah. It makes
Like,
the game
no problem.
way easier, of course.
Which
And
like
it's-
I don't care about that.
No,
'cause
yeah,
to
it's
me,
fine.
bosses are not
to me,
why
I mean,
I'm
it's
there.
part of the game.
I just want to get through the bosses. Like I just want to keep exploring. So like I love beating bosses on my first try because fuck them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
In terms of other bosses that I really liked, I really liked Malekith, the Blade of Death.
Malekith is cool.
The phase 1 is like cool. I like that he was in the game earlier in that whole beast area and like
Is that actually the same guy?
yes.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
Oh, that quest line's really funny. So if you give him death roots like throughout the game and stuff, he just fucking randomly attacked you
Yeah.
all the time.
He went crazy on
I was
me
like,
one
oh my
time.
god, did I fucking aggro him or
Yeah.
some shit?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, sorry, dude.
Yeah,
I
and
was
then you
oh.
like get him down, and he's like, "Okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry." And I had the Mimic Tier out, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Get rid of it, get rid of it." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay." And I
But-
unsummoned it, and then he was like, "I'm sorry."
I think when he goes into his second phase and is just like fucking flying around
Yeah.
and like shooting these beams of death that you like reduce your max life, I was like, dude, this is
And
fucking
dots,
sick.
like it's crazy.
Yeah, so
Malekith
sick.
is really cool. I really like also one of the best like FromSoft names of a thing. It's like Estella, like firstborn of the stars or some crazy shit, like Natalborn of the stars or something. That was a really cool boss visually.
Oh, like the skull Eldritch
Yeah, the
thing?
first like eldritch thing that you fight besides those like
Space.
deer.
Born in space.
The final boss, Elden Beast, I think is beautiful. I don't think it's a fun fight. I really don't like that fight.
He's not up there with me.
It's just too much running
He's
around.
alright.
It's just kind of annoying.
He's alright. I actually think Radagon's more fun.
Radagon's a
him.
better fight.
But
If you had a phase 2, it would
I
have
like
been
the
better.
lore behind it, but yes, I don't think he's
What
the
is the
best
lore
one.
behind Elden Beast?
He is like the vassal of the Greater Will. It's like one of their representatives kind of thing.
Of the fingers? Or
Of the Greater Will itself.
Okay.
They were sent from the Greater Will to our planet, or that planet.
Neat. Yeah, when the Elden Beast popped up, I was like, what? Who are you? What is this?
I think this is an interesting question, especially because we've been talking about lore. This is from Amir Youssef. He says, what was your opinion about this game's lore? Well, I think a lot of the people, especially newcomers, will enjoy From Software's unique style of storytelling. It came across to me as kind of formulaic and too similar to their earlier work. You could swap the Tarnished with Moon-Scented Hunter, Unkindled / Ashen One, as someone who's brought back to life to defeat certain specific bosses in order to achieve their ultimate goal. While I understand that the specific style is what a lot of people like about the Souls games, and I still enjoyed the game itself, and it was one of my favorite games of the year, I couldn't help but feel disappointed about the game's story and felt with From Software bringing in GRRM, or GRM,
Yeah.
it was really a missed opportunity for them to explore new ideas and maybe try to mix up their story style, or their style of storytelling. So I agree with them in some ways. Mm-hmm. Some stuff does feel formulaic in the sense of, especially reminds me of a lot of Dark Souls 1, like this golden order that you're taught is like the good guys kind of thing, but it's like, well, actually maybe they're not, maybe. Or maybe no one's the good guy kind of thing. In like that sense, in the sense of being like a lowly, tarnished, undead, like you're a fucking outcast kind of thing. I think that's a very like thing they've done a lot, but I think it's okay and it works well in the sense of RPing these characters that you want because there's so many options. But yeah, like how do you feel about all that kind of stuff?
FromSoft games, it's kind of funny. Like this one is definitely the most brazen. And it's kind of funny that it doesn't piss people off just because these games are so well made and so solid and so, like you said, very much just what they are, that people, the lore and the story being similar and the gameplay being similar is what you're coming there for. Like you want just more,
Right.
you want them to play the hits.
Right.
And so it's not really a detriment, but like, this game is hilarious at how much it just steals from their own catalog. Like it literally is just kind of like a remix of every game that they've done so far.
Yeah.
To like a hilarious degree. Like when I was walking up that hill toward the Frenzy Tower, I was like, this is literally out of Bloodborne. And like
the
so
Frenzy
many
thing.
fights are literally just out of the other games. And it's not, like I said, it's not like a problem. But it's kind of funny.
It's like you
how
notice that, but it's hard for it to be a
ridiculous it
problem
is.
when it's still better than everything else.
Right, that's my thing. Is like these games are the kinds of experiences I want out of games, and so for me, it's like it's like almost stupid how much you're stealing from yourself, but it's what I like. So whatever, just give it to me.
What did you think, Damiani? So I know you've played some Souls games. I don't know how well versed you are with the lore.
So that's the thing. Like most of the games, I like just casually, like just
Casually
have a
play.
cursory understanding what's going on. Like for most of Dark Souls 3, because like I was following Huber around, like Huber kept like reminding me, like, so this was this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, sorry,
Oh,
Huber.
okay,
I'm like,
yeah.
totally. If I didn't have you, dude, I would be so lost in the narrative right now. But this one, I tried to follow a little bit more closely with this one, and I kind of got like the overall premise. Like this does seem so familiar to me, but I also like this. I think this is like what people like about this,
sure.
and they want to see maybe subtle variations on it. And if this has been done before, then, for someone who's a newcomer, it's still going to be new to them. It's
Yeah.
just like maybe next time, like they should probably like change it up a little bit.
Sure.
But I did like, I don't know how, I'm sure this is probably common in the other ones. I just have a cursory understanding. But again, going back to the Frenzied Lord ending, I liked how the reason they want you to do this is because fundamentally where like the powers behind the power or will behind like the two fingers. When it was something happened to it, like it's fundamentally corrupt and can, no matter what they do in the cycles of the other types of ways to resolve it, it'll never address the root issue of it. So like to burn it all down and start and allow everything to like go back to like the source or whatever and restart again, fresh and new. I was like, well, this is like the burning down the forest thing. Like, but like this seems like the best thing to do. And my understanding of everything I've done in the game was like, man, everything's just fucked in this game, and like
totally.
This seems like the best to me. I like that for my headcanon RP. It fit with me. The other two endings were nice, but man, I like that payoff for that ending a lot.
That's a From Software staple where it's like there's always a push-pull between two more apparent endings, but really if you examine them, they just maintain the status quo in a slightly different way. And then there's always one ending that's like, nah, fuck it, burn the whole thing to the ground, start over. And in Dark Souls, that's like the good ending because you like usher in the Age of Man. In this one, it's a little less clear if the Frenzy ending is good or bad because you kind of destroy the entire world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very interesting FromSoft staple.
I think back to how I like how all previous From Software games, it's kind of like the ending decides the fate of humanity in this world only. And I think back to what I liked about Sekiro is it was a very small story about few characters and how this whole thing just revolved around the ending was whether like Wolf dies for like the bloodline to end with like the prince and all that kind of stuff. Just a much smaller thing that affects just Japan only in this very specific region.
Yeah.
I still like the I really still like the environmental specific storytelling with the NPCs within that area. Like Stormvale, like when you go through the servant who will open the gate or tells you about the hidden path and doesn't care what you do, but like when you beat final boss of that area name Godric, not Godfrey. I was like about to say Godric, and you come back to that part, he's there like kicking the corpse of Godric, and he's like,
is he the one who locks you in that first room? Because there's a laugh when you get locked
in
that
room.
It might
be him. It could be him.
On the like side path when you get locked in the room to get the rusty key.
It could be him.
Somebody laughs and they shut the door.
Yeah,
could be him. Could be some random person.
Patches is in this game,
like,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, like I love like
I did not know Patches in this game.
Missed him completely.
I missed him.
Second playthrough did that. Loved how he like showed up in like Volcano Manor. He went all the way over there. I'm like, and he's like, I'm working with the Volcano Manor.
And then he
like,
shows up in that rot castle later.
Yeah,
and he was outside. I didn't see him again after that, but yeah.
Or like the storyline, the one you did first, and then I tried it after with the person who thinks they're related to Melania, the other Scarlet Rock girl, and Kaled. Yeah,
her storyline is very involved and weird.
Yeah,
I had to look up one part where I was like, where the fuck did she go?
Yeah, I didn't know where she was.
And then it was like, oh, you need an arm. And I was like, oh,
I had the arm
from that castle. Okay.
But I didn't know where she went after that. I missed her.
Yeah. She was just standing by the Erd Tree Gazing Hill in Altus Plateau.
Since we're on the story, Duff wanted to know, what parts do you think are most likely contributions by Jar Jar Martin?
This was the next thing I wanted to talk about because I have no fucking idea.
I do.
Like, I mean, all the names.
It's the mythos of the world. Like the idea of this Elden Ring shattering these siblings, like demigod siblings fighting, I believe is all him.
Okay.
But the filling in between of like maybe like a lot of their storylines and the dialogue is From Software.
I honestly like, and I assume maybe the idea of like a deathbed companion comes from Gurm because it's kind of sexually charged, but like, I don't know what
the idea of these like deformed children, being born from one thing.
But
like
that's like
parent.
So from anyway.
I know,
like,
but I'm just saying that's very George R. R. Martin also.
Yeah. I honestly, when they announced this was a detriment to me. Like when they first announced it, I was like, fucking why? You don't need him. Like, because for my money, From has been like one of the best at lore ever in gaming. And like, I was like, you don't need someone else in here gumming it up. And like, the like repetitive naming structure thing is very cute and him, and it's just kind of irritating though because now like remembering everyone is like, okay, Godric, Godfrey, Godwin, like there's Mog, there's Moog, there's
they're brothers.
Millicent, there's Melina, there's Milena, there's Ronnie, there's Ranella, there's and it's just like, my goodness,
they're all related.
There's Selin, there's and it's just Selin's plotline gets really weird too. I don't know why. Like I did her whole plotline and then she just turns into like a head ball, and I was like, what?
Oh,
that's kind of sad.
turned into so like the whole thing I think with that Magic Academy is like them getting too crazy into the glintstones and it like because you find multiple
too much and then you
see like high level like sorcerers like crystallized in the game and you see them like some other ball guys it's some other shit.
One of the other rises had a ball head thing in it that I think was that thing and it wasn't aggro until you like hit it so
or Renala turned her into that I don't know because she goes away and comes back and she's a crystal head.
Surprised there wasn't more like food related stuff. Gurm definitely likes writing about food.
Trees, and boobs. Those are Gurm's favorite 3 things. I like trees and boobs.
All right, let's segue to some gameplay stuff. Wes Bates said, I absolutely love the additions of Ashes of War. It takes the concept of weapon arts from Dark Souls 3 and expands it in the best way possible to take build customization to a whole new level. With that in mind, how did you like the Ashes of War in the game? Variety, usefulness, etc. And what Ashes of War are your favorites, or did you end up using the most during your playthrough?
I used Mimic Tear a lot. Black Knife Teach I was using for...
Those are Spirit Ashes.
Stuff.
Ashes of War, you're like weapon arts, you put on the weapons, and you can put the...
I was switching around and using some of them. I had the Lifesteal Fist, which was really cool.
Yes, I remember you telling me about this.
And then once I got the Moon Veil, I was like, okay, I've got Transient Moonlight now. I don't need anything else
with
ever
them on
again.
Locked on.
So then I never took them off.
I guess it depends if you used like a special tier weapon. They use like the Somber Smithing Stones.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. Like I like the Seppuku and the other one that did the blood loss. Like I would alternate between those two.
Oh, right, yeah. Seppuku was good.
Did your weapons not have blood loss on them?
No, I added it. So that's the thing.
Because I had 2 katanas, so they both did bleed anyway.
So a lot of the weapons I ended up like towards the end of the game and every subsequent playthrough, you can't add that stuff to like some of the special ones, like the post game, the final boss sword, you cannot add. So they're very good, I think, in the early to mid game. But once you find like the ones that can be with the somber stones and like they're natural already, special power just kind of overshadows. I think the movement ones were probably where I needed to like lean in a little bit heavier.
Bloodhound Step I want to play with more.
Yeah, those seem like they might have been a little bit more friendly to me in the early game rather than anything else. Especially like I tried like the blood loss and the poison one, which are pretty good, but it was always about like getting dodge timing down and like being able to do like that side step or like the flash step thing. It's like, oh, you just like teleport behind the boss. Like that would make it a lot easier in the early going.
Where do you find Bloodhound? I don't have the Ash of War. I had a weapon with it on it.
I think it's from the Bloodhound Knight in Volcano Manor, I think maybe has it or something like that.
It'll drop it. Because I know there's one in an Everjail, but...
Yeah, the Everjail you get like the sword from.
Okay,
I think there's sword. Yeah, it's
okay.
something like that. I can't remember.
I gotta find it. People were when I was trying to fight. So I'm 1 boss fight away. Well, I guess 2. I have to beat the final boss, and then I've got the platinum on my New Game Plus Plus. And that final boss is so funny because the first time, it took me like 4 or 5 tries. Maybe it was kind of annoying. New Game Plus, first try, no problem. And this time, it's been very difficult. So that's, I mean, it's kind of refreshing. You don't want to get a platinum that easily, but
sure.
Yeah, they were saying maybe try Bloodhound Step, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, Bloodhound Step's good. Let's see. This is from Orgosis. They start off with this, but they eventually end the question. Not a question per se, but a point that would generate some discussion. With the new open world setup giving us the ability to run and come back later, more easily grind and more easily cheese fights, running around on your horse. Dark Souls, I think they mean Elden Ring, has essentially provided players with the easy mode or the least difficult options that many of us have been begging for now. So like the Spirit Ashes and stuff, like just more stuff you can do in the world. So the question is, do you believe that the explosion in popularity is due to being one of these magical evolutions of some IPs that have suddenly lifted up multiple notches on the world stage is related to the choice difficulty factor? So I guess they're asking, do you think these inclusions of maybe more freedom and more tools to play with are one of the factors that help getting people into this game?
Did Elden Ring sell more because it's easier? Basically.
Or is it open world, or because of new factors like that? It being open world, these new other ways to play. Yes, absolutely.
And George R. R. Martin, I think, is more than anything is a marketing tactic.
A huge marketing tactic.
It's like he could have written like a paragraph on a napkin and like that could have been all he contributed, and like it would have sold copies. And
Yeah.
it's funny because like this game more so than anything, like they said, because it has so many options, you can make the game easier on yourself by far.
Yep.
For sure, way more
Yep.
than the other ones. I mean, Mimic Tier is a huge one. Summoning is big. Like item crafting to some extent can make things easier and helpful. Summons, yeah, I think like you have so many more options. I think honestly, like these games, we've said this before, but like these games, like mythos or like the zeitgeist around them, and everyone's thinking like knowing they're super hard does them a disservice, because then people will just bash their head against Magritte 100,000 times and get pissed and then be like, fuck this game, you know? And it's like, nah, that's just the game telling you not to do this right now. But yeah, definitely you can find paths through this game.
Yeah. What do you think, Damiani?
Yeah, no, I agree. Because just more so than any of the previous ones, like you could try and go do something else in the other ones, but there was like only so much you could try and do because you're like kind of restricted to certain parts of the game. Where this, just go off in a different direction. I mean, go past Stormvale, go east or go south. I mean, there's so many different ways you can begin that game. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
go east and little like grasslands right there. Or you keep going east and end up in Caelid like I did. Go to the southern island and do the castle down there and help that girl on the trail like to find her father. Like that leads you down there.
So sad.
Yeah, I mean,
I never saw him again after she got murdered.
Sorry.
She gets killed.
He will invade you somewhere later. I
You
believe.
go you go back and talk to him. He shows up, cries over her
That
body,
was the last time
and
I saw
then
him.
I forget where he invades you.
Yeah, I
but,
forgot.
Yeah. Or you just go past Stormvale and end up in like the swamps and then like keep going. I mean, you could. I think before. I mean, I did do Stormvale, but like if I had moved past it and circumvented it, because I circumvented the academy as well, would have ended up all the way at like the Three Sister Towers and stuff, and then doing Carrion first. And it's like, I mean, there's so many different ways.
Well, and it's
you
so
can
funny
go.
that crit path. So to get into the capital, you just have to kill two. You have to get 2 great runes. The easiest way to do it is Stormvale and Raya Lucaria, probably. That's what I've been doing in my crit path runs. And then like you just do the capital, and then you're in the Snowland, and you just have to do the Fire Giant and Crumbling Farum of Azula, and then you can beat the game. And it's like hilariously short compared to like 104 hours. My first playthrough down to 2.5.
Yeah.
It's like kind of funny that you don't have to do like most of the game, but I mean you don't know that,
Right.
so, and you wouldn't have the levels to beat the final boss, probably most people.
Speaking of Giant
I
Land,
couldn't.
I told Damiani this before, but I don't think I've told you. So there was the cut archstone in Demon Souls.
Oh shit!
The
and
giant-
it's supposed to be stone and
and
snow
stone,
in the north.
snow with giants, and there's
I didn't even think about that.
character
Brad.
models with like that are giants kind of things with like mouths in their stomachs kind
and
of thing
that's
like Fire Giant is like that. There's giants like that in the game, so they could have reused that whole idea and just put it there,
dude.
which wouldn't be surprising for them. They've done
I
that
never
before.
even thought about that. You're right. It was called the Northlands,
So-
and it was snow.
That's
and giants.
100% confirmed. The reason the Archstone's not in the Demon Souls remake.
is because it's Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Because Elden Ring is canon with all of the Souls games.
Maybe.
I mean, it kind of feels like
Who
it
the hell
could be.
knows?
Like,
Yeah,
there's
who
weird,
knows?
like, outer gods, like, Star Baby shit, like Bloodborne. There's weird
Yeah.
stuff from Demon Souls and Dark Souls in it. Like, it's similar enough that I wouldn't be surprised if there is, like, some tiny little thread. But people think that about all of them, so.
Yeah. Question from Keaton. They said, Elden Ring has one of the best open worlds I've experienced, and yet my favorite parts of the game were still going through the legacy dungeons. I would have liked a couple more unique dungeons and sacrifice some of the catacombs, tunnels, caves, and general size of the world. How did you all feel about the balance between navigating the open world and the dungeon content? I definitely think the legacy dungeons were very strong from a design standpoint. But I think there's a lot of unique areas in this game that aren't necessarily just the catacombs, like that that castle, South Limgrave, the Weeping Peninsula, we were just talking about the girl
Yeah.
and her dad. Like, that's a whole unique area kind of thing with its own boss and stuff like that. Like, for God's sakes, like, Necron is huge down there, and that's all completely unique.
And Noxtella.
Yeah,
and,
like, obviously there's a lot of, like, you go through the catacombs, and it looks visually the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the same shit, but they're different a lot of times, especially with these fucking death chariots, you know, that just one-shot you, which I love. I love traps in games like that. I think they're
stuff.
super fun.
It was interesting in the Subterranean Shunning Grounds when you end up in a catacomb, but it's like a wall broke and it just like happened to be into one of those, and like it's not a separate thing, but it's like was one of them, and it was like interwoven into it, and it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like these are part of the world.
But like, how did you feel about the balance, I guess, of all these things? Do you wish there was more of something else that you could take away from another thing?
I mean, I don't know if I felt like I needed more. So so I get this right, Legacy Dungeons for into like Stormvale,
Yes.
Red Keep,
Yes.
Raya,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
the
right. I guess
capital.
so, like,
and
yes.
like okay.
Carrion Manor.
Oh, so I thought
The
there
capital.
were, I thought there were like plenty of those, honestly, because there's so much else to do as well. If anything, there might have been one too many.
By the time I got to Crumbling
Catacombs.
Farum I was like, oy.
Like caves are fine. Like I don't think there were too many of them, but like maybe like one less like catacomb, or maybe it was caves. I'm maybe getting confused there, but
The catacombs are the ones with like the stone walls
Those
and
yeah,
Stone imp
yeah,
idiots.
yeah.
God,
I hate those
I think the
guys.
thing, yeah, those felt to get a little bit more repetitive, because at least with caves, I felt like they would do a lot of like parts where you could get like knocked off like edges and stuff. So like it felt still kind of like dangerous in some of them. Whereas the catacombs, I wasn't like, I'm not worried about like dying to environmental things unless it was the dumb chariot thing. It's like, it's just enemies waiting to ambush me. Or the only one that I ever felt threatening was the one with the like falling like blades.
Yeah, there's a couple.
And it's like,
There's a few.
even that, it's just like, just hang back.
I liked how they started changing the, like, making you have to ride up those blades or like the flame towers.
Yes,
They did
that's
some
fun.
really cool. And there's one that has an elevator that goes down or up and down. But if you make it go up while you're still down there, there's another elevator under it that you can
Yeah.
ride back
Yeah.
down. Like that kind of stuff.
Like,
shaking it up was really
Visually,
cool.
like thematically inside, they could look very similar, but I actually think they do a pretty good job of making each of them feel different and having something tied into it. Like there was one
Yeah.
later on where there's like shadow enemies, and you had to lure them into
Into
some
the light? Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
they
cool.
do
that
that
one
later
was
on,
really
which was
cool.
cool. There was the one where there's like a bunch of like ghost NPCs fighting in the rot, and you're going through
Yeah.
there dealing with all of them and
some
stuff
of them
like
will
that.
attack you and some won't.
Yeah.
Like they didn't get annoying to me because you kind of eventually realized their utility. Like
Yeah.
if it's a mine, you're like, okay, I need Somber Smithing Stone 8. Maybe I'll go in here and see if it has it, you know? Or like you wind up in a cave and then end up getting a cool talisman, or you finish a catacomb and get a really good spell or whatever. And so it's like you're exploring it for a reason, which I think is refreshing, at least good.
I really like the parts that wasn't apparent that you were in any of the three things, like catacombs, the caves, or legacy dungeons. When you get off when you go up the snow elevator for the first time, and or to the consecrated snowlands or whatever, like that sequence that looks like it's
Right.
a catacomb, but there's like the invisible platforms that you like can figure out down there, and there's like an optional boss there as well.
Yeah.
Or going from the swamps around the academy, going up towards like the waterfall, and you start going up those paths that leads to like the magma worm boss fight or whatever.
Yeah.
Like those, like it's
That's
like
the secret way to get without the Dectus.
yeah, I was
lift.
like, I like these parts. I liked because I'm like, am I in a dungeon? And it's like when you question that, that's kind of like,
Or when you find like the Frenzy Village or the Albanerics Village, like stuff like that was really neat.
yeah,
And it made the world feel lived in.
Yeah, this world was surprisingly huge to me. Like, I had an idea of what I was getting into from past games. I'm like, oh, yeah, like 30, 40 hours, like, fine. This game's like 2 or 3 of them put together, it feels like,
Yeah,
of just the amount of shit you could do. Which,
And I love the way they zoom the map out as you get more.
yeah, I think
'cause
that's
you
really
keep
cool. I
thinking,
think that's
like-
really cool.
you keep thinking like, okay, this is definitely the whole game, and then it's like doubles, and you're like, oh, okay, and then it doubles again, and you're like, oh, and then there's an underground, and you're like, okay.
We had a question. I forgot who it was on here. I'm not sure who it was, but they essentially said throughout, like at a point in the game, they kind of got burnt out.
Yeah.
Did any of you feel that?
No, I got very consumed by this game, and I kept wanting like more and more and more. So it's interesting because it's how people respond to games where they want that, they have that mentality, or they hit burnout. Flip the script, like Persona 5 for me was a game where I felt burnout.
Right.
Like this game
yeah.
is way too long for me.
I burned out on 4 and 5.
And I'm seeing like this sentiment is totally fair. Like it's absolutely valid to like get burned on a game like this. But for me, it just spoke to what I really desire in a game, and it's not necessarily the narrative. It's just like everything else this game was offering. I can't get enough of this. In fact, now like I'm the new player, so I was like, man, can you give me another zone now? Like,
Yeah.
can I get like where's the DLC? Like I need a little bit more.
I was definitely ready to beat it when I was toward the end, and I was kind of glad that Ashen Landau or whatever was not like a whole legacy dungeon. It's just like 3 or 4
Yeah, you
bosses.
just run through there.
So like Crumbling Fair Missoula, I was kind of like, I didn't rush it necessarily, but I was like, all right, this is not like, because I'd just done Haligtree and just beaten Melania, and I was like, whew, but
Oh, you went in that order.
yeah, I did Haligtree first, which probably was harder.
I did it after, but the Crumbling Ruins, probably my least favorite zone. I mean, it's wild how
It's
it
cool
looked,
looking, yeah.
but like it was not like I didn't have the most fun in it. I was like kind of glad when it was over, but also I was kind of bummed out that like it completely changed the capital. I was like, no,
after that.
because I wanted to
Yeah.
explore. I was like, I'm leaving some of the capital stuff to later. I want to get like this part done because Malekith was like really frustrating me. I'm like, I just want to beat this guy and like advance and like did it. I'm like, oh no, like that. But like getting to Haligtree and stuff like in the past the Snowlands, like did that after once I got to the capital was Ashen Capital. It's like, oh man, there's this whole north area is more. I was like kind of surprised. Like, man, this game is so big. There's so much to it.
The consecrated snowfield or whatever, I explored probably that area the least. Like I feel like I explored every inch of Limgrave and Altus. But the snow area, I definitely explored not quite as much. Like there are a couple of mines I didn't even bother with over there, and like a few things I didn't bother with. I'm glad I ended up in the Spirit Caller Cave because I got the Bloodborne Talisman that heals you with subsequent attacks, and I was like, shit, yeah, I've been looking for this the whole game. But yeah, I wasn't like burned out, but I was just like going faster.
Yeah. I definitely was not burnt out when I was going through this game at all. I feel like this game does such a good job of constantly surprising you and bringing you to sick new locales. I always wanted to see what was next around the corner, and they give you cool items for exploring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I want to see everything this game has. I was never like, let's wrap this up. I never really got to that point this whole time. I loved every second of it.
Did you get the platinum? Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I'm one fight away from it.
I just got obsessed with finding like summon ashes and like any new zone. I'm like, oh man, is it gonna be like? Because I would always look at the slots. I'm like, oh, there's got to be another one. And like, yeah, eventually, like, and it's figuring out how to get to places like underground. Like when you get to the Sofria River, however you pronounce it, and then
Siofra or something. Yeah.
and then you find out like there's another like what's this upper stuff? Can I even go there? And then you like later on in the game like, oh, it's like Necron. Or like, oh,
Oh my
whoa.
God, I love that.
Because you like you have to be redone. You can now go through. There's like I didn't even know this was here. There's this whole
Well, then finding
hole.
Mogwin or whatever, the
Moog.
Blood Palace.
The Blood Palace.
Wild.
I loved that when you get to like Necron the first time, you see where Moog is in the distance,
Yeah.
and you just always know that there's that location. You're
Yeah.
like, how the hell do I get
How did I
there?
get over there?
I love that
I mean,
kind of stuff.
Well, the visuals down there are just
Lake
so
of
amazing.
Rot, like the
Lake
whole,
of
like,
Rot.
like it looked like the fucking river of slime from Ghostbusters 2.
And then
just, like,
getting in the
everywhere.
coffin
Yeah!
twice? Like doing that twice, like going down and then up a
First time I
waterfall?
got to one, I was like, is this an item? And then like,
Yeah.
oh, where am I going? I'm going on a journey
Dude.
here.
Well, the one of them has a grace next to it that has a guidance like pointing toward the coffin, and I was like, "What? Okay."
Oh,
But like the first one, I just saw a message over by it, and I was like, "All right, let's do it."
The Lake of Rot was like, I was like,
Crazy.
dude, he's fucking lost it.
I was like, all right,
guys, eight
He's
poison
peaked.
swamps
He
in
loves
this
poison
game.
swamps, but he just keeps fucking us over every time. every time it's like, how much worse is it gonna get
Well,
from him?
what's so funny is because I cut left in Lake of Rot because I got distracted by something.
Yeah.
So I made it to the very end of Lake of Rot and then was like, what's that tower thing? And like went out and then raised a thing, like a path.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
was
went
like,
left first too.
I could have been raising a path to get through this shit. I've been spamming like Scarlet Rot items and like
I was like,
brute
I have to
forced
get
it.
every item. I have to
Yeah.
get every item I
Yeah.
see. So I'm like, well, I gotta explore this whole goddamn
Exactly.
area, and there's a boss down there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I like brute forced the whole Lake of Rot, and then I was like, oh, there's a path. then I did the path, and I was like, okay.
Ian Valentine asked or said a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, but he essentially wants to know what comes to mind when you think the moments where you felt like a true badass, like you were actually the anime protagonist.
I literally fell to my knees when I beat Melania. Like, I fell to my knees.
Yeah, that's what they want.
And I was just like, ah.
Yeah, that's what they want.
The times where I feel like a badass, though, are when I, like, just aced a boss.
Mm-hmm.
Or, especially when with the two katanas, sometimes on a combo, you
jump.
just finish with this move. That always felt really good. Triggering Rot, or Bleed. Fighting NPCs is really fun with my build because my poise is really high, my bleed is really high, so I stagger and then bleed people, and then they just like evaporate.
Yeah,
That always feels
bleed
really
can shred
good.
NPCs.
Yeah.
What about you, Damiani? Anything?
Just when I was able to like go mostly at like new game, like going back through enemies
yeah.
that took multiple hits, and now like dual wielding, just like jump L1 and like one shot everything, and like you just like a giant group of enemies that took a little bit more patience and had to be a little bit more methodical and careful going through them. And I was like, all right, next. Just like jump, dead, jump, dead, jump, dead. Oh, come! I can't target you guys fast enough. Let's go. Like,
It is really quite impressive how you go from like having to be so meticulous and careful to just like evaporating everybody, like feeling like a god. And it's
Yeah.
really fun. And it's like the game knows like the sword, like a +10 magic weapon, you get a trophy called God Slaying Implement or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
feel like that.
I guess the anime moments for me would be parrying a boss is always fun, especially because you got to do it like 2 or 3 times. And when I was face planting Melania, I was like, yes, this is peak gaming for me
Yeah,
right now. When
poise
she's
breaking-
going boom.
Poise breaking her is great.
That was my kind of shit. Jacopo Amelia wants to know, if Godwin is the big face lying at the bottom of the castle Stormvale, then who's the Prince of Death that is lying underground in the huge arena? They are flipped around. Godwin is the one underground in the huge arena.
Yeah, that's
The one at
that
Stormvale Castle, I don't know. I mean, it could be Godwin also, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows yet.
Wait, which one at Stormvale are we talking about?
Stormvale Castle, so there's like, kind of hard to find, like, you go down somewhere and there's like one of those big blood rot tree guys that you fight. You fight him a bunch of times in the game, but he's there anyways. But there's this guy,
Ulcerated tree spirit? or
yeah, whatever the hell. They're called.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
well, not like the 2 trees like the axe. Or
No,
anything.
the like
They're like the
worm thing.
Yeah, those guys.
That you get a golden
Chat
seed
told
from.
me about
Yeah,
how to
there's
get there.
one of them
yeah.
down there, and there's like a giant fucking
Yeah.
disgusting face.
Yeah.
I don't know if I found that. That's cool.
Yeah.
The one down by Fia is definitely Godwin.
Yeah, that's
'cause she's
Godwin.
like, I'm gonna lay with him and make a
Yeah,
death baby.
but the other one I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows yet, or it could be part of Godwin too. Like he could have got split in 2. I don't know. It's something. Who the hell knows? But I am also curious about
Well, and
that.
it's weird too in this game because you fight multiple versions of the same person. Like
Yeah.
there's
fight
Mog the
Mog
Omen
twice.
and Mog the real one, and then
Yeah.
there's Morgot and then Morgot, which is like the same dude but whatever. And then it's like you fight Godric multiple times, I think, and like
No, one time. Oh no, there's so there's Godric, but there's one in the Everjail that has a slightly different name, and I think
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
like
yeah,
an
that's-
ancestor of
that's
them or
the
something.
ancestral one that
Yeah.
But then the final boss who becomes Horalu.
Yes, which
Or
is
like
Godfrey.
Penult-
You fight
Godfrey,
him the
yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
time in the capital when he's like gold.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that
yeah.
gold thing. Then you fight him
And he's
later
like
on.
super easy. Yeah, and then you fight him. Yeah, and I like that Nefeli Lu and Hora Lu. Like Lu is the word for warrior, I guess. Like I don't know what
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the deal with that is, but
Before I lose track, since we brought up the capital, I have to say I think the capital is one of From Software's best environments they've ever made. And I think this is what
Definitely their most complicated.
I think
maybe.
this is what they wanted Anor Londo to be. I think this is what like their vision of that original city. Because when you get to Anor Londo, yes, it has this wow moment, but it's like pretty empty, and you don't really go a lot. You don't really go
It's kinda
down
small,
into it.
yeah.
It's pretty small, actually. This felt like them realizing that vision.
The capital's
and
got like
going through
6
it. It's
different
like
dead ends you can wind up in.
insanely dense,
Yeah.
filled with really cool shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, side tangent.
No, the capital's bonkers. And then you realize there's an entire subterranean shunning ground below it that's
Yeah,
like
it's
also just as
it's
huge and
fucking
complicated.
Insane. It's insane.
Like, I don't know how many people are on the team that made this game and how long they were working. We found out that they're not paid very well, but like, my God, this game is huge and complicated.
Well, yeah, this game's been in development since like 2017, probably.
Yeah.
I think.
Which still doesn't feel like enough time. Like, this game is bonkers. Like,
Yeah.
the capital itself is like as complicated as some entire games.
Yeah. Not sure how they do it. Not sure how they do it.
Factory.
Think about Breath of the Wild, Damiani. Came out in 2017.
I know.
Second one's not out yet. I think Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016.
Yeah.
But since then they've done
Yeah.
Sekiro, Garcina, which is like small, and this. It's crazy.
Hey, yeah.
It's crazy.
People would say like, yeah, FromSoft reused a lot of assets,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
still made like a world that felt very handcrafted.
Yeah, like
in-
one of the
in
most
5 years.
beloved and like fan favorite Zelda games reuses an insane amount of assets, which is Majora's Mask.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like reusing assets isn't necessarily a
Ooh.
bad
It's not
thing.
bad.
No, not saying that. What I'm trying to get at is like Breath of the Wild sequel is supposed to be reusing the world and
Supposedly,
assets and
yeah.
stuff, and like yet it's
But it's
take-
adding 2 more
Yeah.
worlds probably on top
Yeah,
of
that's
it.
the thing. It's like that has to be.
Also,
but
not
it's
Elden Ring
different
is
subject.
reusing
Yeah.
everything in this game is reused.
Yeah.
The weapons, the ideas, the story, like
Yeah.
it's all just over again. But,
And it's
who
like
cares?
it's
Whatever.
still better than everything.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not taking shots at Nintendo with Breath of the Wild. Not taking shots. I'm just saying how crazy it is that they made these amount of games that
Yeah,
fast.
it's more about like what's taking so long with the Breath of the Wild follow up. That
Yeah.
what crazy
Let it
ambitious
cook.
thing are they
Yeah,
doing?
no, obviously let it cook.
cook.
Yeah. Did anyone use a different summon other than the Mimic tier? Black Knife Tish is
Yeah.
particularly is great. Please use Mongo Oltz as my name. Well, there you go. It's Mongo Oltz.
Yeah.
Black Knife Teach. I used Clean Rot a little bit. The wolves I used for like the
Yeah.
entire first half of the game, and then I switched to the rats.
Yeah.
The rats are really fun because they appear behind whatever you're fighting, which is really funny. And they don't take FP; they're like free, which is really weird.
I got a lot of the like stronger ones, like the I can't remember names, but the one you literally just said at the beginning of this, the
Black Knight
Black
Teach.
Knight is like assassin like dude.
Black Knife Teach.
Then like the giant like there's like a bigger guy or whatever with like a like spear and shield or whatever, or club and shield. And you can also do like the archer thing
Oh,
as
those
well.
guys, yeah.
Yeah, like the minotaur looking
From
thing, sort of.
from Noxtella.
Yeah. I got like 3 or 4 of those. Early on, I was using like either the wolves or like the 5 like kind of like enemy-looking guys. I don't remember what they were called. So I kept using like overwhelming number ones and boss fights to help distract.
Yeah.
And then I got like the stronger ones, but like I didn't get Mimic Tier to very late in my first playthrough.
You get kind of
Yeah.
far. In the
Which
game.
is probably was for the
You
better
get a
because
Nocron. You need to use a stone sword key to get in.
Yeah.
it made a lot of the end game the end game stuff way more manageable, I think, because I did not take a lot of attempts to beat anything like towards like the last few hours of the game, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh well, I guess this is like super, like this is meant to be super hidden and stuff because it's really strong. And I was like, oh well, I mean, this makes it trivial.
Mimic Tier is really funny because like plus 10 Mimic Tier is still stronger than me, and I'm level 190. And it's like that Mimic Tier has more health than I do. It can tank everything. Like the AI is kind of bad, especially since they nerfed it. Like it'll just stand in the way and like tank AoEs.
Yeah.
So it's not like very bright. Like Black Knife Teach will dodge way more, but it's squishier. But like, man, Mimic Tier is stronger than I am.
Yeah.
And when it takes like the big attacks, like Godfrey takes away the axe and becomes like the wrestler dude, like chose to go after him first
Yeah.
and suplex him, and like
Yeah.
I was like, oh cool, well now I'm gonna attack you, and then he keeps chasing. I'm like, well, that's the luck of the draw. There is like this that that second form, like this was a cakewalk like for that.
Yeah. Oh, that boss. Yeah.
yeah,
Mimic
it's-
Tier is easy.
And then same thing with first phase of the final boss is like, oh, like every big attack's being aimed at my mimic tier, so I just hit and then run away for a bit and do it. But like, at least the final boss, the freaking Pokemon, was like,
Pretty annoying. Fight.
It was annoying, but I kind of liked. The only problem was like the camera work when you got close. Like that's a whole issue with like giant bosses in FromSoft games. You got to figure that out at some point, hopefully. But I did like how I had to figure out how to dodge the sky patterns and stuff. It was like, oh, they come in like 2 or 3 different patterns, and it's like, oh, it's the Elden Ring logo. Oh, I got to dodge it now. It's like, oh, you got to jump over this. I'm like, okay. And like the sword swings, it's like it's very slow, so it's like, but like your instinct is to dodge really fast. But like when it starts stacking multiple abilities, like that stupid thing, the light emitting thing that follows you forever.
The Elder Stars.
God.
And then he also does like slash beams at you. I'm like, oh, die in a fire, you asshole. Like, what are you supposed to do here?
And it's like 1, 2, 3,
yeah.
4. It's just
like,
like
like I don't have enough roll stamina. Get out of here. It's like I can't iframe cheese this. Like,
you poor strength builds.
It's like,
I just don't have enough hit points.
yeah, not enough HP.
Yeah. I used the wolves my entire first playthrough, so I
Love
have
that.
a fondness to them. They're not that great, but they're cool early game.
They're good for taking aggro.
Yeah, of course. I used this guy named Olg, I think. He's like a Stormveil Knight. He's like 2 swords. He's really good. Then I recently found how good Teach was, and I was like, whoa, it's pretty good. But you get her super late in the game.
Yeah. Fun fight.
Yeah.
Getting that was tough.
This is from Freeze. It said, who were some of your favorite NPCs? My standouts were probably Morel, a.k.a. Pope Turtle. Love them.
Oh, my God.
Iron Fist Alexander, pot friend. But, yeah, what do you all think?
Millicent, I really liked. Melania, she's a boss. And Ronnie, obviously. I like the spirit tuning girl. That whole quest line with her and
The blacksmith?
Mawin or whatever is the blacksmith's name is.
Yeah,
Hewig.
love him.
Those two are really great. Fia is really cool. Her storyline is really neat. Horalu and Height, like their whole thing is actually kind of fun once you get it to work right. Like he's searching for like the new leader of Limgrave with a good bloodline, and he ends up choosing Horalu, or not Horalu, Nefelilu, which is kind of cool. I really liked that. I don't know. They're all great.
Yeah.
That weird, oh my God, Selvig or whatever, the like creepazoid, like puppet, like pervert guy, like the over in Ronnie's Rise, like next to Ronnie's Rise, he has his own rise. But like you find out he's got like a secret sex dungeon of like trapped women he's turned into puppets. And you're just like, fuck you, dude, what? And he gets murdered by somebody. Blythe is great. They're all good. Whatever.
Yeah, what do you think, Damiani?
I liked when I came across like EG for the first time, the giant
Oh,
blacksmith,
EG,
because he's like,
yeah.
he's also like, be careful when I get really focused on my work, I might hurt you
Yeah.
because I
It's
don't
like,
see
you're really
you and
small.
stuff. And like when you meet him like in spirit form back at Randy's tower, it's like, oh yeah, hi again. You know me? Like I was like, I don't know where his thing goes though, beyond like other than like you get more story from Ronnie about like them being like vassals of the Empyrean or whatever, and like they decided to stay with her when she like went against the Two Fingers and stuff, and like you know they were like loyal like brothers to her basically.
Yeah, I think
He stays.
Yeah, I don't know like where you see him, and like he just stays in his spot and just keeps crafting for you. I don't know if he can advance his individual
The
story.
last thing he said to me, he would just repeat like, "You're a true companion to Ronnie." Like,
Yeah, that was it. I was like, oh, I kind of want more.
he
for
warns
this
you
guy.
about Blythe.
yes, I
Before you
believe he
take him out
locks
of the
Blythe in
Everjail.
a ever jail.
Yeah. I'd already let Blythe out, and he was like, "Be careful with that Blythe." And I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Alexander's obviously one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I just love him. I liked Blythe a lot too. Honestly, one of my the Pope Turtle is super sick though too.
so
Love
cute.
Pope Turtle. I think my favorite NPC is the new one they added, the little pot kid
Where's that? I don't know
in
him.
Jarburg.
Oh, I haven't been to Jarburg yet.
I
Calls
heard
you
about
Kaz?
this. I haven't done it though.
Hey, Kaz.
I keep forgetting to go to Jarburg.
He like says your hands are too rough or some shit. It's really funny.
Oh
yeah.
my god, I need
Yeah,
to go
he's
there.
one of my favorite. I love that guy.
How do you get to Jarburg? I know it's by the
It's like
study
by the
hall.
Yeah, you have to like go behind it and drop down on like those graves that hang
Oh,
out.
okay. I should go there before doing my getting the platinum.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but Cameron Pulseford wants to know our thoughts about the difficulty level of the game, especially the final bosses. Though I did beat them eventually, I felt more hopeless fighting Melania and Elden Beast than I ever felt fighting the likes of Midir or Gale.
I would agree. Like, those are the two that have made me so far feel pretty hopeless. Radon, my first playthrough, was a real pain in the ass. Then you don't ever have to fight him again. But
And they nerfed him.
Then
I think they
for a while.
buffed him.
They said they unnerfed
again.
him, yeah. But yeah, Melania and Elden Beast for me are the hardest.
Oh shit! For favorite boss fights, I forgot about Radon. That's one of my favorite fights in this whole game.
Very anime, like, crew
The
going
whole
in.
story around of like this festival to kill him, and you like could summon those people in the festival to fight with you.
Really cool.
And he's just fucking Ganon. It's like, yes.
Riding a
So,
tiny little horse.
I was kind of deprived the epicness of the battle. Like, I got the beginning of it, but two things. Didn't see the summon signs for whatever reason on my first attempt of it, so I didn't realize you could summon allies. I don't know if I just missed them because his aggressiveness from a distance was like took
Threw
me
you
back.
off.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh dear, I got to figure out a way to close in on him, and I focused on how to like, okay, I think I got it now, how to bait stuff and getting close on him. But once I got in close, he straight up glitched out for me. He mounted his little horse and just kept riding in a circle. And so I mounted up and just kept going, okay, ding, 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 ding. And he just never did not do that. And then, like, I remember I was streaming that part and chat got so angry. And, like, because they're like, why does this always happen for Damiani? How did he do this? Like, he's not going to get to do one of the hardest fights in the game. And I'm like, now, and then reading about it, I was like, oh man, I really missed out. Because, like, the pre-nerf version I was reading on people saying, like, even with the 5 allies wherever you can summon, he just like wrecks them really fast. So like he does zero in on you very quickly. And like they're just meant to like be like essentially like a mimic tier or like a less competent mimic tier where they just like take a hit for you, but like they're not gonna win the fight for you. Where in the nerf version on my like New Game Plus first playthrough, I knew about them and it was he was nerfed. I just sat back at like the last 50% of his health and watched him just like kind of kill him. I kept resummoning them and like, oh, I don't have to do shit. They're gonna win. Although that I got to see the freaking him vanish. Like, where'd he go?
Oh god,
the star
yeah.
thing.
I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
whoa,
so cool.
that was pretty awesome.
The cutscene after you beat him is really good.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Yeah, I think I beat the Fire Giant before I beat Radon on my first playthrough.
What?
I came back to him. He was much harder. Like when I played him, they definitely. He was a tough boss the first time when I got to him. I was like,
I beat him
oh, shit.
pre-patch. He was really hard. Fire Giant was not hard.
Fire Giant was kind of troublesome for me.
The only time he ever killed me was in New Game Plus Plus.
It was a camera issue for me a lot of times with that fight.
Yeah.
Strength build.
Yeah, same. I had to be like it was especially the second phase for Fire Giant. Like I just could not do enough damage to him. It was like not hard to dodge stuff, but I was not doing a lot of damage. So I was
a lot of people say that
because I was attacking from behind. I wasn't attacking his hands or anything. I literally got behind him and was attacking from behind. And
I just attacked his stump.
I tried to get aggressive on that, and it would like bite me in the ass sometimes. I'm like, this is taking too long. Like, what am I doing wrong? And then on the second playthrough, I was like, I'm stronger now. I'm just gonna like attack it from the front and do it. I'm like, oh, I was supposed to do this. So like, this made it go way faster. I was like, all right,
Maybe
he's
he's weak to magic or something because my sword.
Yeah, he might be.
Vapor,
Yeah, do you have bleed?
Bleed
bleed can help for
magic
sure.
on
I'm
my
not sure.
swords, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the thing for the first phase became so easy once he closed in because he break his like left ankle thing and he goes down and he can wreck him. And then when he's charging up fire, if you hit him enough times, it'll like interrupt his fire and like hit him himself. And it's like,
that's cool.
if you go all out on him in time, like riding in fierce on like torrent towards him, like you could double like just really wreck him at that point.
Yeah,
and then he's like almost to like phase 2 by that point. Yeah.
Love it.
It's a funny question. I'll see how both of you do at this. Faraz wants to know, could the allies give their understanding of the story? And do you think Gurm had any influence? Or when they're asking about Gurm, like, influence that we noticed, we already talked about that.
Okay, so...
Story recap. Go!
Great. So there was a goddess or something called Marika, and she broke the Elden Ring.
Queen Marika, yeah.
Yeah, and she scattered it and had a bunch of kids, and they're all freaks, and they all had shards of the Elden Ring, and they became great runes. And the 2 fingers represent the Golden Order, which is like God, kinda, but maybe not. Maybe it's just like some kind of thing imposing its will, the Golden Will. And there's also like the outer gods, which are like the star beings, because it's FromSoft, of course. And then there's also like the frenzy, like sewer guys who want to burn everything down. And they're all trying to get you to do their ending so you can remake the world in their image. And Milena is tired of the Golden Order, and like Godric, the guy, the all-knowing, like it's kind of a cool thing. He's like the whole time is like, one of us needs to be Elden Lord, but then it's like he's actually like a Marika simp, and he's like, none of us can be Elden Lord, haha. And then you beat him, and he's like, oh. And then you kill God and choose an ending. Kill a fraction of God and choose an ending.
Okay. How do you feel about that summary, Damiani?
I know that Melania and Radon fought an epic badass battle,
Oh, yeah, she
and she
started
won
Scarlet
because
Rot.
she used biological warfare.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, he would have like wrecked.
It was
the
kind of
world.
like a stalemate. She passed
Yeah.
out during it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I guess she technically won.
I like that she released Scarlet Rot to kill
It was like a
Radon and-
Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
So that part was cool.
Yeah.
I like that lore.
Yeah. I'll give a quick lore recap, I guess, of my own.
Also, do they all the demigods have their own personal two fingers or no? Because like when
That's a
you
good question.
All
So I
the
don't
dead
know.
one. The
because
first time
Ronnie
you see a dead one,
down
I was
in
like,
her
whoa.
thing has
She killed
two fingers are dead.
I forgot what the term is for the beings like born of like a one god. Is it Empyrean or something like that? I don't know. Essentially, the people that could succeed Marika to become the next like god of the lands between, I think, served the two fingers
Because
essentially.
every single one of them is tied to a divine tower, and all of
Yes.
those had a dead two finger.
Yeah, which is
And then there's a three finger that does the frenzy ending.
yes. So it's like Ronnie, Melania, and Mikola are like the three Empyreans kind of thing. I think so. That's why Moog abducted Mikola to become like their consort essentially, so they could
okay.
like be Elden Lord kind of.
Okay.
There is this being called the outer being or whatever, which is like this god in space, some sort of supernatural thing, gives Queen Marika the power, and the Elden Ring is the laws of nature. It's a physical thing, but also like the law of the universe of this land. Everyone's immortal at the time she takes the Rune of Death. That's why Meliketh has the Rune of Death. She gets rid of it, so none of them can die. But the Rune of Death is stolen from Meliketh, which is Ronnie's whole thing, and those like ring wraith women. They kill Godwin.
Black Knight, yeah, assassins.
They kill Godwin. He like his soul dies, but not his body. And Ronnie kills herself, but her soul lives on, but not her body, because she wants to break free of the fingers and all that shit. Anyways, Marika gets pissed, shatters the ring, but also Marika is also Radigan. They're two beings in one thing, and Radigan's trying to repair the ring, but she shattered it. And the shattering essentially caused everything to fuck up and made everyone go crazy, and all the children of the demigods, they're all fighting for this shit, and that's kind of how the game starts.
yeah.
Then the rest you fill in, I guess. I don't know. There's YouTube videos out there.
So
You could find someone.
we basically had it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we essentially know
I
the
had
story 100%.
Dank. That feels good.
Yeah, I don't know. Elden Ring, crazy fucking game.
I don't understand the Horalu thing. When he turns into Horalu, I'm like, what's happening?
Horalu, so he was like, that was him when he was banished from the Lands Between.
Oh, okay.
He does the war with the giants.
And then he
they
lives as a
crush the giants,
barbarian
and
or
the
whatever.
golden light fades from his eyes or whatever that means, and he leaves.
Okay. Okay.
So then
That
he
was like the
becomes-
one story
you
thing I
are
was like,
the
huh?
tarnished, I guess, are descendants of him. So you are like a descendant of.
It's like Genghis
That's
Khan.
why they say
kinda.
like Margit is like, you know, foul tarnished. Maybe you have warrior's blood or some shit like that because you're like,
Right.
I don't know. It's all crazy mayhem nonsense. Like, you gotta you gotta put in the effort to understand this shit.
Yeah.
If you can even understand 100%.
You know what you do is you watch Vadi videos over the next few
I don't think he
months.
has any.
He hasn't done it
for
yet,
lore.
but he will.
So, but there's a lot of lore people out there if you want to check that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zilly the Witch.
Yeah, there's
do
a lot
good
of stuff. A lot of good stuff. I don't know. Any of you have any final thoughts about Elden Ring? I feel like we went in pretty depth about a lot of stuff. Anything you think we're missing?
I really like the way that the underground star areas look. The first time, like running away from a bear and going into the Siofria well thing, and it just keeps going down and down and down.
Yeah.
And you pass Nocron as you're going down and like you just see the stars. Like that was a really cool moment.
Yeah.
Like, visually, and it
Was.
shook up the way it looked, which is really cool.
Seeing a mausoleum for the first time was also
Oh, yeah.
a good one. I still wish From Software would get over their repelling coding for platforming. That every like physical object has some like in this natural slight repel ability, because like you'll hit a wall and
And
like
just
it just like slightly, it always errs towards pushing you away just a bit.
Yeah.
And like I kind of wish they would stop doing that. I'm like, just let me go flush against a wall when I hit it and fall down. Like stop this
Instead of
weird
bouncing
ass
off
like
it.
bounce
Yeah.
off shit. Like
Yeah.
That's
Stop.
what makes going down to the frenzy
Yeah.
door
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so
It's like,
annoying.
Yeah, hopefully
Like,
they've
please
seemed
stop.
to have been making platform a little better. It's very slow, the growth, but it's getting there. I
this
mean,
engine
Sekiro's
is
was much better, but
way better than the
Yes.
previous Souls
Oh,
games.
yes,
My
it is
God.
better.
It is better. I'll give it that. Yeah.
being able to jump is tight. Don't take that out. Keep that in the
Yeah.
games forever.
Yeah, don't get rid of that. And
Jump
again,
attack is so good.
like they gotta figure out a way to do like camera lock on, like situational camera adjustments better. Like other games have figured out how to do it.
Like
Just
what?
do the
It's
God
like-
of War
what game
zoom
do you
out.
think's done better?
the zoom out thing. Like if it's a bigger enemy, like if you get closer, the camera doesn't need to follow you
Zoom
in
out a
that
little more.
close. It's like
Make it an-
hold out.
Make it an option though, for real. Like,
Oh, yeah,
they
like,
should have like
toggle it.
classic Souls
Yeah.
camera or cinema or like new camera, because like if you don't want the camera to be moving, that
Sure.
would be awful.
Yeah.
Sure. I actually think their camera's better
Like-
than a lot of other games.
Just
I
the
like that you
whiplash
control
get
everything.
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah.
I prefer. I actually would err on the side of letting me control everything 1-to-1 the way these work, because that's why I love them. Than
Sure,
having
yeah.
the camera doing things that I don't want it to do, because that can really fuck you up.
Yeah, zooming out is kind of not a bad idea.
Zooming
But-
out for like Elden Beast, I think would work.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to sit there. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I do get like in every one of those situations, there's technically a way to read boss movement, like even up close,
Oh,
like
sure.
that, like
Yeah.
dragon feed or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you could tell when they're about to like. If you
Yeah,
start,
I
learning-
understand
Elden
that.
Beast,
Yeah.
I mean,
there are
I
a couple
complained
of
about the
tricky
camera.
ones where like I got by the dumbass like
Oh yeah, spam spear, light
the
spears.
light spears, because I saw it straighten out and it was doing a noise, and I thought, okay, it's casting that mist thing at my mimic tier, and then I just got hit by 1,000 light spears, and I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time, yeah.
Yeah. Sick game. Can't wait for the inevitable DLC, whatever it's going to be. How many parts is the question, I assume. Obviously, we'll be back for From Software's next game. Maybe next DLC. Who the hell knows? That was a fun discussion. Thank you for joining me, both of you. That was a good
Oh, wait.
time. Oh, yes?
The question that I've been asked 800,000
Oh, okay.
times. Rank them. The Souls games. What's your favorite? I hate it too. I always say mommy will kill both.
Yeah. It
But
just
did
depends.
it beat Bloodborne?
It just depends what I want out of the games, I
Yeah.
guess, and what I'm in the mood for. I think, honestly, Sekiro's one of their best, I would think, from like a design standpoint. But it's like, I don't know, it just depends what I'm in the mood for.
Sekiro is definitely their most like technically solid. It's not my favorite
Right.
by far, but like
Like,
It's-
I like this, I guess, more than every Dark Souls game now.
oh, easily this is the best Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
It's like it's a will they won't they between Bloodborne and this.
Yeah,
for me,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah. Like, there's things about Bloodborne I like that this doesn't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. What do you think, Damiani? Where do you rank it?
I
You haven't
mean,
played all of them, right?
yeah, but I mean, I don't think Dark Souls 2 would win over any of the three.
I mean, I like Dark Souls 2
Bloodborne.
more than most people.
Yeah,
No.
That's true.
Sekiro, Bloodborne, and this are like always going to be like the ones vying for it. I do think the extra focus of Sekiro by only having like one weapon set like helped them a little bit.
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
But it's but that you
trade-off.
sacrifice a lot of what people really want out of that. So
Bloodborne, happy medium.
yeah, like Bloodborne, I think. I mean, I love Sekiro's. I think I love Sekiro's combat the most. But Bloodborne for me, from start to finish, like I don't remember getting really angry at the game, even when I was losing. Whereas Elden Ring, I like fell into the same trope as like when I played Dark Souls. And to an extent Sekiro before I learned about the Makiri counter, which was like should have been essential that you get that, but another story. Bloodborne was just like that world and like the way everything was placed, it was like the smaller scale I think helped it because it wasn't an open world game. It was like some of their tightest design.
I think it's their tightest.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that. And yeah, just couldn't get like enough of it, and don't know what it was about it. Like just like really enjoyed the vibes of that game.
I love Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like frustrating points, and yeah, there aren't really many. Orphan of Cause was pretty hard, but like whatever. Not as hard as Melania.
I felt like in Bloodborne, anytime I really got an enemy was taking like I was like taking multiple attempts, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of struggling with this. To me, it felt like summoning in that game was more OP than even in Elden Ring, because for whatever reason, like in some bosses in Elden Ring, like I don't know, like the bosses just seem to like.
Oh, do you mean like a player?
Another player.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
like a
you can,
player.
like,
Summoning a player in Elden Ring was almost never
Yeah.
helpful.
I mean, some
in-
bosses
Mimic
it's
Tear's
actually
always
a
better.
detriment because of like the
Yeah,
design
yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
In Bloodborne, you can like definitely rush bosses down faster with other people. I feel like, and just like
Aggression.
stun lock them and shit. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it like always felt like I only need to summon one other person. Like maybe, like that was it. Like one other
Yeah.
person and like watch what they do a little bit and observe. I'm like, okay, I get it now. Like let me follow
Yeah.
what they're doing and. I don't know. Maybe it was just maybe by the time I played Bloodborne, there's like better. I mean, I played pretty near launch, but
Yeah.
maybe I waited a day or two, so maybe
His
better.
Hellhound was really
Maybe better players were joining me and helping me out.
It's hard for me to say. I love all these games, but I can nitpick all of them to death if I want.
Yeah.
Also, before we go,
Pairing in Bloodborne felt so good for the gun,
the
like
gun
like
pairing?
Yeah.
this sick. It
I
was
think
so fun.
Yeah, I like the guns in Bloodborne. I also don't like the guns in Bloodborne
Okay.
because they don't feel like guns at all.
Yeah, they're not powerful.
I mean, yeah, just for like
Yeah, I
parry
think it's
setups
cool.
is
It's a
nice.
cool idea. Also, just fucking Torrent.
Oh my
Torrent
God,
is
Torrent.
such a good mount. Like giving Torrent double jump is such an awesome
Yeah.
idea.
And the horse controls are so good.
Like I actually like the mounted combat in this game. I did a lot of it my
Yeah,
first playthrough.
it took a
I
little
think it's
bit of
pretty
learning,
good.
but
It took
it
getting
started to
used to,
click.
yeah.
If they make a follow-up open world game and they do like another mount type thing, they just have to be a little bit more consistent with their
More
rules of fall
Different
damage.
mounts.
Well, the fall damage.
Though that's across the board from games. Just make
Yeah.
the fall damage more consistent all across
It's just,
the board.
it's not physics based, it's distance based.
Yeah,
And,
like-
and I mean, I see why they're doing it because it's a way of location gating. Because, like, if you could just physics based
Yeah.
with Torrent, with double jump, you could literally go anywhere and break the progression.
Oh, it's
So,
also
like, that's kinda why they're
even not
doing
even
it,
trying to
but-
use the double jump. Like people are like, oh, why can't I just jump right before I like hit the ground? It was like this cliff was like that. I could survive that off torrent,
Right.
But then when I'm on torrent, it kills me. Why? Like why is this inconsistent sometimes?
Rainbow stones,
Yeah.
dropping them off a cliff, that was
Yeah.
like one of the best
you
things
just
I
do
heard.
it like Sekiro and take out fall damage. There you go.
Yeah.
There's no fall damage in that game. Or you get an item where you can just lose fall
No,
damage.
Well,
to
there-
be fair, Brad, they treat it like MMOs. If you're in combat and you fall, you take damage. But if you're out of combat, you just don't take damage when you fall.
They
like,
did that
who
with
cares?
stamina in this, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Yeah, they did it
They
with
can do
stamina.
something.
So like that way, it's like you're like it doesn't defeat the spirit. Like you're in combat, they don't want you to just like easily get
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, I can't just jump off a cliff. Haha,
Yeah,
bye, boss.
I understand the fall damage thing, but it could be a little more consistent. I would say.
Inconsistent fall damage was a red flag. Was like one of the things I didn't like in this game. The other one that was really really bad to me was in Ronnie's quest line. If you go down after talking to her in her rise, they invisible wall around the front of her rise, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? Like, put a
Super
fog
weird.
door instead of
Super
on the door,
weird.
because that's what they do in other parts of the game when you have
It's
to
really
go do
weird
a
that they
thing
just
first.
do it for that.
Yeah,
That's the only
fine.
time they did an invisible
But
wall.
I wonder if they
game breaking.
if
I'm like, what?
through testing it was like something they felt they had to do. I don't know.
Well,
why
but like they
decided to
do,
it.
they do it at other places. Like when you have to go after you kill Morgoth, and you have to go and touch the briars to learn that that's there. You can't. The grace doesn't show up, and the door is fogged out. It's like, okay, but that's in world. Like that makes sense. Like just do that. You're in
Yeah, I
a
don't know.
building. Just fog door
I
the
don't know what the hell
doors.
happened.
Maniacs. Ugh. I'm probably disproportionately irritated by that.
Yeah,
but
you
it
need
was-
to calm down.
I don't like invisible walls. Don't break the immersion from Soft. You almost never do.
All right, that's it for Elden Ring. We're done here. Good stuff. All right, we'll see y'all later.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode activated.